Okay.
All right, try it now.
Am I okay now? Wow. There being a quorum present, this meeting is now declared open. At this time, I'll entertain a motion for the approval of the minutes from our May 21st, no, wait a minute, May 7th meeting.
Mr. Chairman, I move that the meeting minutes of May 7th meeting be approved as written and dispensed with their reading.
May I have a second?
Second.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? So moved. Mr. Manguso, are there any communications?
Mr. Chairman, there are no communications at this time.
Hearing none, we can continue with tonight's meeting. Our first order of business this evening is calendar number 3454, Overcomers ABA Services LLC, located at 1370 Morris Avenue, Block 1303, Lots 7 and 29. Applicant wishes to construct an office building and training center for ABA instructors with on-site parking. Do we have counsel here for the applicant?
Gary Goodman. Sorry, I thought it was number 2. Good evening.
Good evening. Would you like to begin?
Pardon?
Would you like to begin, Mr. Goodman?
If you have a shorter one, that we want to go, because my architect's not here yet.
Does the applicant wish to speak? Do you have a couple other witnesses?
Yes, I do.
Okay, you want to proceed?
Okay, I'll begin. Okay. Name is Gary Goodman, and I'm here representing Overcomers, which is an organization which trains folks who go into homes for children who are on the spectrum. They are renovating an existing property on Morris Avenue, which is zoned for the use that they want to make of it. And it's on a lot that's zoned commercial, but the rear lot, which is a separate tax lot, is zoned in the residential zone. And it's on this lot that they want to add additional parking to. As the applicant will testify, she plans on training, trainers, people who are going to be working in the homes, and approximately there is a need by the zone for 22 parking spaces, and she is going to have a number of these people in training who are going to need a place to park. Her proposal is to turn the rear yard into a parking area, which when combined with the existing parking on the present lot will fulfill the obligation of the 22 spaces. It will be her testimony that when she planned this project, she met with, I think, the zoning official and representatives of the town, and was told that they helped her, I think, design the area in the parking lot that was going to remain fallow, like a large buffer area in the rear. So she was trying to follow what the folks in the township were guiding her. And without further ado, I'd like to call Stephanie.
Hi, good evening, everyone.
Good evening.
Good
I'm
evening. Good
Rob
evening.
Pansul, the board attorney. I'm in the back here. Can I ask you to raise your right hand and swear or affirm that the testimony you provide this evening is the truth and the whole truth?
Yes,
And for the record, could you state and spell your name with your affiliation?
Stephanie Taiwo, Stephanie Taiwo.
And what is your affiliation?
I'm the owner,
Of?
1370 Morris Avenue.
Thank you.
Would you like to proceed?
Yes, so,
Let me ask you the question, Stephanie, okay? So you're the owner of 1370 Morris Avenue, correct?
yes, correct.
And you are also the principal of an organization called Overcomers.
Yes.
Could you tell the board, please, what Overcomers is about?
So Overcomers is an agency. We were established in 2021 officially, and we've been providing children on the spectrum of autism with services, so behavioral therapy services. And this is going to be primarily in the homes or in public school districts and daycares as such. And right now, we are planning on expanding and growing to meet the demand of the children who are going to be, needing more services in our area.
And what is your proposal for the house at 1370 in terms of what you want to do with that facility and how it is going to service your company?
So right now, because we are going into the homes and into the schools, we necessarily need like a place of common ground for training staff, right? So to manage such things as crisis management. If a case where a child is engaging in severe tantrums or self-injurious behaviors, we kind of have to go out to the remote locations to provide those trainings. Whereas now with 1370, we can have a common ground where they can all come and receive these trainings all at one time on a scheduled system.
So at 1370, how many staff members will you have, not including the trainees who are coming, but just people who are going to be in your employ to train people?
So about, right now, including myself, it would be about 6 people.
And how many trainees will be attending at one time?
So we're looking anywhere between 10 and 15 at once. So in total, it'll probably be about 20 people occupying the space.
And what would be the hours of the operation that these trainees would be trained?
From 8 a.m. to 5 p.m.,
Okay. And how many days a week?
Monday through Friday.
Okay. Do you have any evening hours or special events that would require you to be in operation in the evenings?
No, so we'll be operating 8 to 5, Monday through Friday.
Okay. Okay. Now, the facility itself, what are you proposing doing to the house?
So right now, we are looking to expand on the back lot with parking. So the building that we are lifting to is about 3 stories. Right now, it currently is about 2.5, and we're just adding a full floor on that 3rd floor. And then the back would be additional parking area in that 2nd lot, 7, I believe.
And so the various rooms, are they going to be used as like classrooms to train people?
So
And
it's gonna-
offices?
Correct. So it's going to be office spaces, and just divided depending on whatever group each trainee would be part of.
Okay. All right. I have no further questions, Mr. Chairman.
Are there any board members that would like to question the applicant?
I have a question concerning the facility and what you're going to be doing. Is there any special licensing required to operate that type of facility?
Yes, so I am a board-certified behavior analyst, so I am certified and licensed to be able to provide the training.
But you're going to have, will you require licensing of the other 6 that's going to be training the other folks? Are they going to be licensed also?
Yes, they are deemed supervisors, so they are also licensed. So basically exactly what I'm licensed for, they are also holding the same certifications.
Will there be any handicapped or autistic children in the facility?
So the children are not going to be in the facility. The facility is for the staff members as we go to their location. So we go to the children's location, their homes or the schools.
It's a lot of space for 21 people.
We do plan on expanding, right? So we're looking at the future and just not for right now, because if we're going to be putting all this work into what we do want it to be something that we can grow into.
When you say expand, will you start partitioning off the areas or keeping it open space the way it's
So
proposed?
primarily right now it is more of an open floor concept, and then from as much as we need to, divide rooms into, we can do that along the way. But right now it mainly is an open floor concept.
Are there any other board members that would like to question the applicant?
I have a question. Just to clarify what my colleague said. So you won't be performing any evaluations or anything to the children on site?
No, not for the children there will be no children on site.
Thank you.
Can I
Any
just
other-
ask, when I swore you in, this is Rob Pansul, the board attorney, where is the current operation located that I assume you have a current operation?
So we are operating wherever the child is. So we are in public schools throughout Essex and Union County. We are in the child's home primarily and daycares.
So this is like a first effort for you to try to have a common area to train the
Correct.
people that you're offering to go into these schools, correct?
Yes, correct. Rather
Did
than
you
us
do an
going-
analysis of any other neighborhoods or locations? I realize the building here, it is in a zone that it might be conducive to what the use is, as your attorney said. But the problem and why you're in the zoning board is you need a use variance because the rear is a residential zone. I mean, do you understand that and you understand the implications involved with that? I imagine you'll defer to your professionals, but were there other sites that you considered before you looked in on this one?
Yes, I will just be transparent and say when I was purchasing the property, there was some information that I wasn't aware of when I purchased the property. But along the way, we kind of just had to make it work at that point because.
So you've already purchased the property. You're the owner?
Yes, the property has been purchased over a year ago.
Okay, so there's no,
Any other board members that would like to question the testimony of this applicant? Hearing none. At this time, are there any members of the public that would like to question just the testimony that the applicant has provided? Not necessarily a comment, just the testimony.
Good evening.
Hi,
My name is Joe Crine. I'm a resident of 1371 Beverly Road. My property abuts the back along with my wife. So if I understood you correctly, you purchased the property just a little over a year ago?
Yes.
Okay, the property since that time, and I don't know if it's appropriate, so please correct me if I'm wrong, it wasn't testified to, but the property since that time has fallen into significant disrepair. Did that happen under your ownership?
So, yes and no. So initially, things that were already kind of falling apart when I purchased the property. It is a very old property. So when I purchased the property, things were already falling apart, like in the back especially. So by the time we initially it's been a long process, mind you, right, to be able to get before you all today. But by the time we had initial plans and things set, we were expecting a whole different set of drawings that initially were supposed to be implemented. And then we had to switch over to kind of a new, more efficient plan. So yes and no.
So a couple more specific questions. By the way, you purchased it over a year ago. How
Yes.
much longer than a year ago did you actually purchase it?
So we purchased it in March of 2024, so
So 14 or so months ago.
correct.
Their property had at that time a significant amount of mature trees in the residential zone that the board has been discussing. Did you authorize the removal of those trees?
I did. So I would say at that point, it was in the rear of the lot, right? So technically the backyard of the lot. And since it was on our property in the rear of the lot, we were just told that we would have the authority to be able to take them down.
You were told?
Just to clarify, that we had many complaints on that, just so
Correct.
you know.
And
And
I
that's
know
when this is how it started. where We
Yes.
got complaints that they were clearing out trees, so you never actually checked with the town to see if you can clear out trees, because we have no call or
Correct.
record of you calling.
And that is correct.
Okay.
Just to
So
be
you
just to
said
be
who
clear.
told you?
So just to be clear, when we reached out to the contractor that did do the tree takedown, he informed us that this is your backyard, this is your property. If it was on the front of the property or affecting city lines by any chance, then, we would have had to contact. But just legally, by law, they
So-
let us know that we didn't need to.
So the contractor you hired told you it was okay to
To take down the
remove
trees.
significant mature trees that affected and abutted numerous properties?
But it was in our backyard.
The
So
property you
it was still on
purchased.
our property. It was still in our backyard on our property.
Secondly, who created the disrepair of the home, or of the, excuse me, the structure? There's been, for the board's edification, you hadn't testified to it, but I hope it's okay to say, all the windows are removed, right? It's
Correct.
got, as a matter of fact, the back windows, to my understanding, as a matter of fact, I visually saw it, are still broken. There's glass in the back area. Grass is rarely cut. It's cut currently. But it certainly, shall we say, grows high at times. Is that a fair way to put it? So who authorized the disrepair of the home and the removal of the structure and the windows? Was that you?
So I did have a contractor that was on the case at that time, and he kind of informed me that maybe it would be best to kind of just get things started, because at that time, we thought things were going to move quickly. We didn't really know that we were going to run into more issues based off of zoning. So that was his suggestion, and then I kind of just went along with it.
So is it the same contractor who said it was just fine to remove?
No, that was two separate,
Another contractor?
yes.
Okay.
For the record, a permit was issued for an interior demolition only, which consisted of sheetrock and taking out some non-bearing walls and toilets and stuff like that. Windows and the exterior part was never part of that.
So there was no permit issued to remove all the windows?
Correct, and then that was also not to my knowledge that the windows were removed. So by the time I got on site and I saw that windows were already broken and removed, that was,
Broken and removed. So the structure for a significant period of months, and correct me, stood there fallow with frankly vacant windows, so that we all understand what we're talking about.
correct, and that is true, yes.
Right, and the corrective measure to that was, I believe, to paint cardboard, is that correct? Is that what's there now?
So
Is
it's
there like a gray painting of some sort?
There's wood boards that are nailed in and they are painted.
Okay, so that I understand here, so you've owned the property for over a year. Your property sits today in disrepair, as you conveniently mentioned, removal of mature windows, and I will say, although it's a little bit of a comment, and you can correct me, on a rainy night like tonight, in the next couple days, there are folks that used to not deal with flooding that now do. Okay, so that we all understand what's happening in the neighborhood. And we all get to look at a structure that's in significant disrepair under your ownership with frankly cardboard windows and an embarrassing structure to the community of Union, in my view. Am I correct on that assumption?
Yeah, you are very correct, and I think that's why we're here tonight, just so like things can be moving forward and addressed. And
Well, I would find it difficult, given your 14 months ownership, to see how anybody could think working here when I hear the town building inspector, and maybe it's a comment, but it's certainly relevant. When I hear the town building inspector say you didn't ask for, you noted to us that you spoke to two contractors, not the town officials, in terms of guidance, that anything moving forward should be respected in that way.
I would like to add, because obviously the floor is open, I would like to add that once I realized the mistakes that were made in early onset, I did go ahead and try to rectify it and keep in touch with Anthony Manguzo and as well as Don Travisano as much as possible moving forward, which is how the plans were developed with their guidance as well. So
Well,
I would like to
for the record, we did have a couple of meetings to try to give you some sort of ideas to try to rectify certain problems. Along with some shrubs in the back for the meantime and putting up a fence, and that wasn't done either. So we just tried to get this along because it wasn't actually fair to the residents in the area. So to your point, yes, we did meet out with you to try to rectify some of these situations because the complaints that were coming in were numerous and a lot.
Right. And if you look at the plans that we've developed a landscape plan with the help of our civil engineer. We've developed I would say, a very beneficial to the neighborhood plan, to be quite honest with you. Although some of you guys may oppose, I will definitely like to just say that this would be
You brought it up,
beneficial.
so I'll ask two things. One is, are there any violations currently open on this property?
Yes, I believe there was a summons written a couple weeks ago
of
for the property.
summons.
And violations there's some notices of violations that are on that property.
I did speak with, I think his name was Daniel.
Papara.
Correct.
That's a property maintenance, yes.
Correct. So we did have a conversation about, it was mainly about the front lawn, about how it needing being
I don't believe
maintained.
there was more to that.
I would like to say that we are very much aware that this has been an issue for the past. We've been trying to do as much as possible. Keep in mind that this is a landlocked lot. We have had very limited opportunity to do anything moving forward without us coming before the board. So this took a long time. I would just like to say, I don't want to feel like, this is a lot of opposition, it's been a lot.
With all due respect, by the way, let me ask, how much under contract did you pay for this?
For the property?
Yeah.
I would like to not.
Okay, I mean, you
Yes,
come here, it's a matter, at some point, it's a matter of public record. It's public record. I'm
It
not
is
asking
public
for-
record, so why would I have to answer that
Well,
now?
then we'll all go look. But that said, you were able to put together the funds and yet come here with a naivety that frankly is hard, I'll say it, is hard for me to believe. What I've seen is the destruction of the quality of life of the neighborhood, just the removal of trees that can't be replaced, and certainly, at least in my view, one of the first things if someone brings up an issue, you should have replaced the trees immediately if you cared about this neighborhood.
But
And the
then
idea- let me
that's where the
finish.
plans
And the
are.
idea, because you brought it up, the idea that 22 parking spaces, more than 7-Eleven, more than Quick Check, more than Dunkin' Donuts, the idea that 22 parking places in an area that had significant ecosystem and prevention of flooding for a neighborhood, and to say it's somehow good or want to work with us, is in my view, frankly insulting. So, but I thank you all for your comments.
I would like to say the purpose of us coming here is to show the improvements, right, that we're planning on implementing. And I'm just going to leave it there.
Are there any other members of the public that would like to question the testimony of this witness? Want to state your name, your address?
Sure. My name is John Faranda, F-A-R-A-N-D-A. I would live on 975 Townley Avenue. I'm a resident of the township for 34 years. 34 years ago, I attempted to cut a branch off a tree that was on the sidewalk in front of my house, and the tree police came, and if he had a gun, I felt like he was going to shoot me. And the purpose of me stating that is that the severity of the differential of what's going on with this property is incredible to me. I admire what you're doing for the children that you will affect. I worked for a company that puts people to work with disabilities, so I kind of get where you're going. But to change the landscape and the thought of 22 cars being parked on a residential, street or in a parking area back there is just beyond comprehension. You mentioned the word expanding in the house that you bought. If you wouldn't mind telling us what that expansion would be in the house?
No, I meant expanding as a company, as an agency.
Okay, so you don't have any other, do you have any other plans to do anything in the house as far as expanding?
As far as going up, so we're going
Yeah.
to the third floor.
Yeah.
So right now it's 2.5, and we're going to a full 3.
Right. So one of my concerns also when I present this to the board is what happens in the future when this lady maybe sells the business and we've established this now? Where the hell are we going with what might come in after this? I mean, it's, again, a noble effort on your part, but I'm concerned about the future. It's the next guy who comes in, and what are they going to be allowed to do? And then this board, do you want that on your head as giving the blessing to something like this to move forward? There's so many, open questions.
Yeah, these are all good points, sir. I'm Rob Pansul, the board attorney. That's why I raised the prospect of needing a D1 use variance in the residential zone. It's a significant hurdle that they have to overcome. I mentioned it to the applicant. I know council's aware of that. He represents them tonight. But it is difficult, and this is a unique circumstance where you actually do the clearing and the demo first before you've actually gotten an approval. And that's, I think, part of the perplexing part as I sit as the attorney here. I don't vote, but I certainly am here and guide the board accordingly. So it's a tough situation. So, I mean, we plan to cross-examine the witnesses, and I assume there's other professionals here tonight that are going to try to address it, but the comments, I think, out of the box are something that's very significant, Mr. Goodman. I'm sure you realize this.
Right. Well, I don't want to beat a dead horse. I think everybody, kind of understands where we're going as a neighborhood. You know, I didn't move into a house in Union, I moved into a neighborhood. And all my neighbors, I think, feel the same way. You know, we all look out for each other. We keep our properties clean. It's pretty quiet where we are, and I know you had mentioned you're thinking about a 9 or an 8 to 5 business. You know, but I just don't know. I don't know. There's just a lot up there, but I thank you for giving me the opportunity to speak. I wish you well. I wish that you would have looked at another parcel, you know, something more commercially appealing, something that wouldn't encumber having people's properties encumbered by possibly flooding water from rains and different things like that. I mean, all those things need to be looked at. But and I thank you. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Ferranda. Are there any other members of the public that would like to question just the testimony, not a comment? At the end of the meeting, you all have a chance to speak, if you so desire. So at this time, are there any other members that would like to question just her testimony? Hearing none. Mr. Johnson would like to question the applicant.
Can I, and no disrespect, but can I ask you what town you live in? Where you?
I live in Union.
But how often did you visit the site while this destruction was going on, or construction that you say?
I was there almost every day. So
Then how did, well, if that's the case, then how did all of this happen that you say you didn't realize it was going on? The windows being taken out, the trees being taken down. If you were there every day, then that means that you saw this going on and you were okay with it all.
So, for instance, when you're doing demo can move so quickly. So windows can be out within a day, right? So if I'm coming in after work at the end of the day and something is already taken out, then at that point.
But if it looks like it's not right to you, you were there then to stop it, but you didn't.
But it was already done at that point. So I'm not on site because I had someone that was, acting as the developer on site at all times. So I would stop in.
You didn't visit every day then?
I did almost every day.
Well,
But I'm not the one that was running the
but
development.
all those trees couldn't be taken down in one day.
They were. They actually were. And
And all
we
the
say
windows
all
taken
of
out in a
those-
day also?
So they were separate days. They weren't on the same day.
I understand it, but all the windows got taken out and boarded up and painted in one day?
Yes, and if the neighbors want to testify, the trees were taken down in one day. It wasn't a multiple day situation.
And all the windows came out in one day?
Yes. Demolition happened within, I want to say, 3 days.
Okay. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you.
So you said the demolition and everything occurred. Do your contractor, do they need your permission to do any type of demolition and so on?
Yes, so we did get a permit from zoning to be able to do the demolition interior.
Interior, but what I'm saying is you're saying that the windows on the outside, everything was taken down, but you were not aware until you actually saw it. Would they have needed your permission to do that first?
Yes. As far as the windows, there was a whole nother issue with that, and we are no longer in communication with that contractor because of that.
Okay. And what's also preventing you from doing anything inside or interior or on the outside to at least make it look okay on the outside?
So the outside was left alone. The only thing that that is affecting the outside is the windows that, people are speaking of now. There's nothing else that was taken or touched from the outside of the property.
Okay, so now when the trees were taken down, did you think about the flooding and how that could affect it when it rains and so on?
So that was not a thought at that time. It was more of like an obstruction matter as far as the trees go, and they were in the back. Mind you, this is our backyard technically. So it wasn't necessarily a thought of flooding or anyone else's property.
Somebody raised their hand over there. Miss?
My name is Hannah Mariah. I live in 982 Townley. I'm here representing my family.
Could you spell your
Excuse
last
me, can you
name?
say it again?
Yes, Maraia. I emailed Mr. Manguso and I called anybody I could because the sound of them chopping down 200-foot tall trees,
I wouldn't say 200.
300, 400, 100? 100, okay, the surveyor says 100. I mean, it was horrible. It was,
In a 100
and so I and I'm sorry, because I ran out to the contractor and said, what are you, oh, they're all dead. All these trees are dead. So I have 3 boys who could not be here tonight, and that backyard is their world. And we moved here from a poor neighborhood in Jersey City, and when we found the house, with the privacy and back, it was like amazing, right? It's like woods back there, so you don't see the backs of people's houses, and like the kids can play in the pool without people being able to take pictures of them, or who knows what's going on, right? Like there was an element of privacy. Anyway, so just to your point, I thought that those phone calls to find out, did you have permission to whoever was doing this, what's going on, what's going in here, and do they have permission to do that? So I had no idea who, what, anything, right? I knew the old attorney that lived there before. At any rate, I thought that day that those phone calls put things on hold. And sure enough, they were back the next day, chopping down more trees. So the whole thing was gone. And they had a rope on my tree too, and I was like, don't you dare. But anyway, so that I just wanted to say to that it was definitely 2 days of 15 really tall trees getting knocked down and the boys watching.
Thank you.
That's my comment.
To address that comment about the phone call, yes, we received a phone call, and I immediately sent out a property maintenance, one of my property maintenance inspectors, and they were told to stop, just for the record. They were told to stop and not to proceed.
Any other members of the public? Just the testimony, no comments. Because we're going to try to get this meeting moving. Okay, thank you. Anyone else? Hearing none, Counselor, would you like to call your first witness? Thank you.
Yes, I'd like to call the architect, Jing Zhao.
Parking computer.
Did you hear? She said that you could actually just make it up. So if she's there every day, she could.
Yeah, hopefully we can dock in. You got it on a jump drive?
Not yet.
That's easy. That's easier. Very good. Very nice.
We
1, 2, 3. There you go. Which one you want to open?
Let's open the
We're not getting out of here
the
anytime soon.
A000.
This one?
No, this is the.
I didn't even get to the first
home
witness,
side,
and it's an
I
hour.
have the site plan on the other sheet.
This one?
With a 425 date. The other one. That one, yeah.
There you go. This is, you can zoom in on this.
Goes further than that. Were you here when we went to 11:45? We did. That was Galante.
Just for the record, council and board members, I did mark A1, the application as it was submitted. I marked A2, the site plans that were generated by JZ Architects, which consisted of 6 sheets. Collectively, that's A2 for the record. A3 are the drawings for permit by SMB&T Consultants. That's 5 sheets. And A4 is the stormwater report. So those materials that were filed with the application are part of the record.
Okay, could you go up to the mic? Just please provide your name.
Jingjun Zhou.
Okay.
Can I ask the witness to swear or affirm that the testimony you provide this evening is the truth and the whole truth?
Yes.
And for the record, could you state and spell your name with your affiliation?
Jingjun Zhou, Jingjun, last name Zhou.
Ms. Zhu, could you give your credentials to the board?
Yeah, I'm licensed architect, been practicing in the state of New Jersey for 13 years.
Your license current?
Yes.
We'll accept our credentials.
Okay. Ms. Zhu, you were retained by the applicant to do a site plan and do the architecture for this property?
Correct.
Okay. Could you tell us, going through your drawings, which are A2, how you would like to describe the project?
Sure.
You want to start with the parking lot?
Yeah, let me try to zoom out this drawing. All right.
Okay,
So,
the parking lot's lot 7?
yeah,
That's
so
the-
essentially we have 2 zoning lot here. The lot next to Morris Avenue is what we initially started was, it's very difficult to see the numbers. Hold on. It's a 6,000 square feet-ish lot, and we created 3-story above ground and 1-story below grade, which is a total of 6,600 square feet. According to Union zoning code, we're required to have 22 parking space. And because we can't accommodate all the parking space in the existing commercial lot, and the client happens to own the lot behind it, so we're proposing to use half of the residential lot in the back as parking space. Right now, we have 5 parking space in the existing commercial lot and 17 parking space in the residential lot in the back.
And there's an area behind the rear row of parking. What is that area going to be utilized for?
So behind right now, this whole lot is undeveloped. We're developing half of the lot as parking lot, and the rest will be landscape with trees for acoustical barrier, and I don't think it's public use, but it will be landscape.
Will there be any fencing?
Yes, we will add fencing.
And how will this rear parking lot that houses 17 spots, Will it be lit?
Yes, we'll add parking lamps for parking purpose, but it will be occupancy sensor triggered.
Now, if you could go to your next drawing, which shows what your plans are for the house.
Yeah, okay. So before I go to the proposed plan, I just want to show the existing plan. The existing plan is basically a 1.5-story, very small. In the appearance, it looks like a single-family house. What we're proposing is basically follow the right side of the existing foundation wall and pour out the rear side, the rear half of the building to be aligned with existing foundation on the right. And in the back wall, we're keeping the existing foundation wall. But we are pushing, sorry, I'm going back and forth here. We're pushing the left foundation wall to the right so we can create a 10 feet wide driveway instead of 8.5 feet right now. And the front wall will also be pushed towards the street. So it will be aligned with the other buildings on the street. And in terms of the floor plan, it's a quite straightforward floor plan. All floors are almost identical with big, wide open space and ADA compliant bathrooms and some small offices. So first floor, we have a little reception area and a powder room, one ADA bathroom and open space. And second floor is pretty much the same minus the reception area. Third floor, no bathroom right now. Yeah, and basement is pretty much identical as well. In terms of the exterior, we are utilize the maximum allowed building height, which is 35 feet, and created 3 above grade habitable space, and keeping the first floor at the same elevation of the existing building so that we can use a little of the basement. And exterior, the appearance-wise, we're proposing stucco exterior with some wood plank, give it a more modern look, and we're maximizing the windows on Morris Avenue side, and the other 3 side will be standard casement window.
Ms. Chu, have you reviewed the Collier's report?
Not yet.
Not yet. That just arrived, actually.
Okay.
There were numerous bulk variances that were not cited, and I was looking through them and wondered if any of those we can eliminate. For example,
okay.
One of the variants requires a dense screen planting of evergreen material not less than 4 feet in height. And we don't show that, or you don't show that on your plan. That's something we can add.
We can definitely add that, yeah.
Okay. What you're saying is that in terms of the setback, we're in conformance with the prevailing setback?
Yes.
Is that what you said in the neighborhood?
Yep.
Okay, so that, all right. And are any of these bulk variances pre-existing?
Yes, the side yard, right now it's 5.2 feet, and we're keeping it the same as existing.
Okay. I noticed in the comments there was a question with regard to how garbage and recyclables will be handled. Is there a place that you've provided on the plan, or a place that you could now tell the board where you see that garbage and recyclables being handled?
I don't have a designated location for trash as of now, but we can definitely add it in somewhere in the rear lot near the parking lot.
Okay. There was also, there were concerns by the fire department with regard to access. It's in the driveway. As you indicated, currently the driveway is 8.5 feet wide, and through our proposed renovations, it'll be 10 foot wide.
Yes.
And so I believe the proposal, the recommendation was that we have proper signage so that people realize that two cars cannot traverse the same driveway. And
We can add that,
we would handle that accordingly.
Yeah.
There was another issue raised by both the fire department and Colliers, the engineer review, with regard to turn radius. Can you comment at all on how that could be accommodated in the parking area?
I believe the civil engineer has a turning radius map.
Okay, all right.
Counsel, not to cut you off, but I just want to be clear. She's an architect, right? She's not an engineer?
She did the site plan.
My question again, she's an architect, she's not an engineer?
Yes.
Okay.
Mr. Chairman, that's all the questions I have.
Are there any board members at this time who would like to question the testimony of this witness?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I heard you mention that there will be site lighting.
Yeah, I would imagine we will need some lighting in the parking lot.
Currently, the plan does not show any.
Currently, I didn't show any lights.
So no lighting studies were done to see how lighting up the lot would affect adjacent properties?
Not yet, no lighting study yet.
And with respect to the driveway, because it's a parking lot, it should be 20 foot wide.
Yeah.
I don't think that's one of the variances that's being requested in this application.
Yeah, the
That's
lot
also
was,
in
go
Collier's
ahead.
letter.
Yeah, that's what is required, but what exists now is 8.5 foot, and what
The
they...
parking lot doesn't exist right now either.
No, there is a small 5-car parking lot in the back of the house that does exist.
Well, that's why I made the point of her not being an engineer. I mean, she's commenting on details about a site, which really would be a site engineer's area of expertise. She's unfamiliar with the Collier's letter, which is a driving point to the board's review of this application. The impervious coverage is also a variance. It's not simply non-conforming existing conditions, because you're expanding on it. That's one of the concerns that I had in questioning the representative. So, is there an engineer going to testify tonight or no?
Yeah, he's going to testify, yes.
Are there any other board members? Mr. Bentavegna.
Going back to the first exhibit for the rear parking, you said there was going to be a fence.
Yes, we'll add one.
Is that shown on the diagram?
Not yet,
So it's not shown. So
no.
what type of fence are we going to have? A vinyl, stockade, linked, 4 foot, 6 foot, 8 foot?
It's going,
So, but it's not on the plans yet.
not yet. We'll add after the hearing.
Just like the lighting is not on the plans also, correct?
Yeah.
Okay, thank you.
Any other board questions? Mr. McNeil?
To the fire department's report and what concerns or what we need to have explained is how do you propose emergency vehicles to enter the site, or fire department vehicle getting back for a car fire and potentially need to turn around when there's been no turning templates see if that vehicle can turn,
Uh-huh.
get in, get out.
Yeah, this building really has an occupancy load of less than 75 people. In a building like this, typically, it's not required to have FDNY or fire department access into the parking lot. It's a small commercial building.
The equipment that we currently use
Uh-huh.
cannot fit in
To the driveway.
the driveway.
Yeah.
And, you know, not just a fire truck, but also EMS vehicle.
Uh-huh.
And it's always worst case. If you got 22 parking places, you gotta assume that 22 cars will be there.
My client can testify how many cars will actually be there. I don't think it's going to be 22 cars at the same time.
But that's the requirement.
Yeah, I
Right.
understand. Yep.
I do have a question. So going back to Mr. McNeil's question in reference to the maneuverability, how you propose that? I understand you said it's not necessary, but in the event of an emergency, cars need to get back there. Has any thought process been put into how that's going to happen as far as the maneuverability for cars coming in and out and so on? Has that been thought about?
You mean the fire truck or regular?
Emergency trucks, ambulance, all types of things that can possibly happen in an emergency, right?
Yeah.
Has that been thought about as far as how it's going to come in and out of the lot properly? Because based on what's proposed here, there's not enough space for the vehicles to come in and out and to turn in the event of an emergency.
For regular cars, I believe there is enough. It's a one-way driveway. It's a one-lane driveway. It's not two-lane. It's a reality.
For regular cars, right?
Yeah, for regular cars. And the lot is quite narrow. It's only 45 feet. If we use 20 feet on the left and we give 5 feet on the right for ADA access, then we only have, less than 20 feet to work with. The building is not really feasible. It's not a feasible, design for any building, not to say a commercial building.
Okay, so you're saying it's not feasible?
It's not feasible. The lot is only 45 feet. 20 feet driveway is not feasible.
So in an event of emergency, vehicles would not be able to get back there, is what
No.
you're saying? Okay, thank you.
I have a question. I don't know if you know the answer to this, but I see that in the back with the parking, and when I went back there for some complaints, the parking on, let's look at the screen and say the left side, how close is that to the garage that's back there? There's a garage back there.
The garage will be removed.
The neighbor's garage, let me clarify, my
okay.
apologies, the neighbor's garage.
That,
Is it on the lot line?
we can let me zoom in.
Because there's two garages back there, and it looks like that these parking spots are
Let me see
are
if I-
heading towards those garages. And my point would be that if there was a fire back there, or if a car did catch on fire, or an EV or a regular gasoline engine, I would be concerned that the fire department wouldn't be able to get back there because of the fact that, other than running back there to put out the garage, if it was that close. Because I believe it is, from the tour that I was on.
You're talking about this garage?
Yeah, well, there's, can you move that up a little bit, please? Yep, there you go.
These.
You come in, because that's half the lot. You're going beyond that. You're going to the end of that, you're going a little bit further past that garage. So that parking, in my opinion, has to back right up to it, has to be facing the back of that garage. You're pulling in, there's your parking spot. Now you're going farther back.
So our parking is here in this area.
Correct.
And this is neighbor's garage. From the
There's-
Google map, it
There's
looks
two
like...
garages there in the
Yeah.
very beginning,
Mhm.
opposite of each other. One on one side, one on the other. One on the left, one on the right.
God bless you.
Yeah.
Would it be more acceptable to the board if we change the layout of this parking lot so that it's not parking on all four sides, but we just leave that open, but extend into the landscape, the area a little further?
I guess my point wasn't to tell you how to design it or what would be working, or what would work. My point was, if there was an emergency vehicle that needed to get back to her, I mean, these are things that can happen, you know. The car can catch on fire, and if it's that close to the garage, it could, if they don't get there in time, the fire department, we could have a problem. So,
Respectfully, it's really not an opportune time for the architect to be speculating on changes to the parking lot of which she has no expertise or jurisdiction to be commenting on. If there's an engineer who's going to comment, I mean, I don't even know if she read the fire report. She hasn't read the Collier's report. Those are key ingredients.
The report was sent out, I think, I got it yesterday.
I mean, we're not here to hear, what if we do this, what if we do that? It's your burden to try to convince the board that you were entitled to D1 use variance relief. That's what the goal is tonight, so I can't really see spending much more time with this witness on engineering issues, of which she really is offering no opinion worthy of this board's consideration.
Any other board questions?
Another concern is the driveway. If you have a car traveling on Morris Avenue, making a right into the driveway, and there's another car coming out, is it possible, is it possible that the cars could go by each other, or the car in the driveway would have to back up?
The car in the driveway will have to go back.
Right, because it's not wide enough, correct?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, thank you.
Any other board questions? Hearing none, are there any members of the public that would like to question the testimony this witness has provided?
Hi, my name is Jeffrey Stortz, S-T-O-R-Z. I live at 1370 Morris Avenue, Union, and I live directly right next door to that building. And how I understand it, it's going to be a basement plus 3 stories.
You can ask the architect.
There's not, if you look on Morris Avenue in that area, there's nothing in there that high in that area.
35 feet is what the zoning allows, and we didn't exceed the maximum building height.
What does it do to my property? You know?
Well, you did make the comment
You're
that,
making a comment now,
Okay.
just the testimony. You could, anything that she testified on.
Okay. And then another thing, the parking lot in the back, that always gets flooded from the drainage from Beverly Road. Is there going to be drainage in there?
Yeah.
Yeah. And you said you'll be closing at 5 o'clock, right?
I believe so, yeah.
And why do you need lights in the back if nobody's back there?
It's going to be occupancy sensor anyway.
And on my side, where I live in 1372, you say you're extending the building?
On your side, you are on the left or
I'm on
right?
the right.
You are on the right. No, we're keeping the existing side yard on your side.
And how about, some buildings have lights around their building? Is there going to be lights where my driveway is?
We'll
building?
have the, whatever code required egress step lights
Yeah,
on the side.
Like I said, my bedroom's right next to that building, so they can be shining right in my bedroom.
Yeah, it's a commercial zone, so whatever code requires egress, lights for egress, and we'll have step lights.
And then I got pictures of the property, right, I can't remember what to look at. I got damage to my garage already.
no, I think at the time to document them would be at the end of the meeting. You'd be able
Yeah.
to present them, we'll mark them, and we can question them, circulate them to the board.
All right, that's it. Thank you.
Are there any other members of the public?
Thank you. I know we're talking architectural here. So I have a couple questions in terms of the property, following up from the neighbors' questions as well. So the property currently, I'm not an architect, is an A-frame, I guess you would call it, up on top?
Yep,
So that I understand, and maybe you could put it up, you're no longer going to have that A-frame, you're going to go straight up in a box square, is that correct?
correct. It's gonna be flat. It's gonna be all flat.
Okay, so just so I understand, so property that was given a variance was given that variance to a design to an A-frame whenever that was years ago, correct? Right? And you're changing that design today, would I understand that correctly?
Fair to say.
Okay, so when that happens, how close will the top of the building be, which is today sloped? I'm not quite sure, I'm not an architect, I don't know the correct term. But by not being an A-frame and going up to a square, how close will the top of that property be to this gentleman's 1372 property on the third floor?
Sorry, I don't quite
So
understand.
in other words, when you expand the property today, if you look at it, besides obviously noticing the disrepair that it's currently in and deliberative, you know it's in an A-frame, right? So when you go up, you're going to box it.
Yeah.
Right? So to the gentleman's point, the neighbor, the third floor today is significantly different. How much are you filling in, and how much additional space are you adding by completing that third floor and filling it out?
So we can go to the floor plan right now. So the building width is about 30 feet, it's about 30 feet wide. Existing building has a gable roof, so I would assume it's gonna be somewhere in the middle of the building, and now that we box it out,
Currently
we
is.
will be almost about 15 feet closer to his property line on the third floor.
Okay. So in essence, he'll have someone right next to
Yeah,
him.
so we are making an existing condition a little worse. That is one of the variants we're seeking.
And you mentioned in the design, that the third floor would have no bathroom currently, and would be, if I understand it, relatively vacant. Am I correct on that?
Third floor, yeah, currently it's all vacant. It's
Is
right
it
now,
de-
yeah.
Is it designed, we heard the owner talk about expansion, is it designed for potential rental?
I believe it's all, the entire building will be office building.
Okay, but it's not designed with any sort of office use on that expanded, extensive change of the building on the third floor. It's not currently designed for any current usage. Is that correct? You're taking the third floor. If I understood you correctly, if I'm wrong, just correct me.
Yeah.
I understood that the third floor was going to be vacant with no bathroom. That's what I understood you to say.
It's going to be office space. It's just, there
My
is no
apologies.
bathroom. The
All right, so
third
how
floor
many
people will
offices
have,
will be in the third floor? My apologies. How many offices will be
Yeah.
on the third floor?
yeah, it will be a training use room on the third floor.
Okay. To be clear, no elevator was discussed?
No elevator.
How does garbage work with 22 employees by the owner's own comments and significant potential for planned expansion for the owner's own comments? How does trash disposal work? Is that a dumpster, or how does that plan into the architectural piece?
I think the garbage will have to be somewhere in the rear parking lot, but we can also work out a refuse room, because the building, we have space inside the building. I can add a refuse room.
You're the architect. How did you design for waste disposal for, sounds like close to 24 employees each and every day? How did you design that?
It will be in the parking lot for now.
And how would, so it has to be in the parking lot, right? Because it can't be in the front by logic.
No.
Would that be correct?
Yeah,
Okay.
not in the front.
All right, so in Union, those of us that live here understand that we take our trash out to the parking, to the front every day, every Tuesday and Friday in the neighborhood, okay? Recycles and on Wednesday, if you want to get used to it. So does that trash get lugged out? Does someone get assigned, or is there a dumpster, or how would that work with that many employees on a daily basis?
That I'm not sure. Stephanie, do you?
Well, she's the architect. I'd like to know what was designed for trash. Well, I'm asking how it was designed. Yeah, how was it designed? My
Right now, the
understanding is-
intention is to put it, the I would assume it will be a dumpster in the parking space.
So you designed it, and the design for refuse for multiple employees is to have a dumpster in the back?
Yeah.
Okay. I know the width of an average car is between 6 and 7 feet on a driveway that's proposed for 10 feet. I don't know the width of an average garbage truck that picks up, and I would be curious as to if you could tell us that, if you know it, since it's part of the design of refuse.
I don't think we need to drive a car into the back parking lot to.
Well, how would you empty a dumpster?
Oh, please, ma'am, we have to have order and just have the witness who's sworn in testifying. There's a record being made. Thank you.
I'm just asking how it's designed.
Mhm.
You know,
It's not going to be a big dumpster. I mean, it's not a restaurant, it's not a retail space, it's a training facility. I can't imagine they have that many daily trash.
So, I'm not that strong a fella, but
Uh-huh.
the idea of lifting a dumpster or lugging it out seems like a lot.
Uh-huh.
So I'm curious, you're the professional, how's it
Yeah.
handled?
I would think like a 20-gallon would be enough for 1 week, and somebody should be easily push that out to the street.
Last question on design, and I'm not sure, this might be civil engineer, because you mentioned parking, but I would like some clarification. If you did the design and presented the drawing here, how close are those parking spaces to each neighborhood's property line? They look like they're literally abutting.
They're right on the property line right now. In terms of parking, on the left and right, let me just go back to
Could you show us
the.
that?
Right, here.
So the folks on both the left and the right, because we heard earlier that the only current parking would be the 4 spaces that were abutting the building originally, is that correct? When you designed this? Right, so
You
the
mean these ones?
expansion is for 18 or so spots, right, 17 to 18 spots.
Yeah.
So the neighborhood, if I understand it correctly, the structures and the yards would have an immediate placement of what looks like 4 on the left and 6 on the right. So everybody who has been in this neighborhood that had mature trees that were removed the same month as ownership was taken down would now be looking at parked cars, is that correct?
Correct.
Parked cars, potentially, right? There may be a fence, I heard, because a fence is so much more aesthetically pleasing. And can you explain again, or is this the civil engineer, I apologize to the board, the lighting situation?
She did testify on it, so we
Okay,
can...
so what did you design for the lighting?
We will add parking light.
Okay, what kind of parking light?
I'm thinking of something on a pole right now.
Well, as I understood today's discussion, it's not about what you think, it's about what's designed and brought to the board. So
Yeah.
what's designed and brought here in your drawings, what I'm asking.
There's no lights in the site plan currently.
So I understand it correctly, there are no lights currently designed to a project brought before this board and to this neighborhood. And the idea is that you may have light stanchions. I suggest that you don't know the height, so you don't know the impact, you don't know the illumination onto neighborhoods, anything like that.
No, not currently.
That would be correct?
Yeah.
So you would ask the quality of life of the neighbors to, for lack of a better way to put it, trust you that the design would be correct, given the previous issues we've had with this owner already? Appreciate it. Thank you very much. Thank you.
As the architect, do you factor in zoning? Did you consider the zoning? I know you didn't read the college report in this matter. Do you understand the zoning implications that are at issue here tonight?
Yes.
Because you said to the neighbor that the use for the structure was permitted. It's a split lot where you have residential zone. Do you understand it's a D1 use variance?
Oh, yeah. I didn't understand the questions.
And do
Sorry.
you understand one of the criteria that the applicant has, the burden that they need to fulfill, is that they don't impose a substantial detriment to the neighborhood? Do you understand that's one of the criteria?
Yes.
And would you agree that with the expanded structure and some of the details that we've heard, as it relates to the necessary parking lot, which is part of the application, you can't separate it, that imposes a detriment to the neighbors through the testimony we heard tonight?
Sorry.
I mean, even the architectural design of the building is bigger than what's there, correct?
Yes.
Okay. Thank you.
Any other questions? by the public?
My name's Kamali Grant. I'm on 985 Lorraine Ave, which is basically right here on the right. Well, my backyard literally is along this right line that you have here on the side. So my concern is really just privacy, really. So I know we've been asking questions about the fence, but can you just be specific about how high that fence will, and will it be like some type of privacy fence?
It's going to be a 6 feet tall vinyl fence.
6 feet. Okay, and then I'm assuming you're saying a lighting pole of some sort. So I mean, the pole would have to be higher than the 6 feet, correct? For the lighting.
Yes.
Right. Okay, and then on top of that, I would assume, for safety reasons, just generally speaking, you might want to put a camera, I'm assuming, somewhere back there.
I would assume so, yeah.
Okay. All right, that's all I got.
Thank you, Mr. Grant. Any other public questions? Hearing none, Counselor, would you like to call your next witness?
Yes, thank you. I'd like to call the engineer, Ali Rangwala.
Can I ask the witness to swear or affirm that the testimony you provide this evening is the truth and the whole truth?
I do.
And for the record, could you state and spell your name with your affiliation?
My name is Aliaskar Rangwala. It's spelled Aliasgar. Last name Rangwala.
Mr. Rangwala, could you give your qualifications, testify as an engineer?
Okay.
Yeah, so I'm a licensed professional engineer in the state of New Jersey since 2018.
Are all your licenses and professional qualifications up to date?
I have an undergraduate degree in construction engineering and a master's degree in civil engineering.
Well, the board will accept his credentials.
Mr. Rangwala, you're familiar with the site and the grading issues and the drainage issues. Could you comment on those, please?
Yes, as soon as the drawings are loaded, I'll start with my testimony on those.
There you go.
Thank you. Okay, so I'll start with the grading plan. The existing site as it stands grades pretty much southeasterly, and the proposed grading pretty much follows that same slopes. All of the parking, the new parking areas, everything slopes south and south and towards the front side of the lot. On the back side of the lot, we are maintaining all existing grades. There is no disturbance beyond roughly around 10 feet from the proposed curb for the parking area. I'm gonna move on to the drainage plan. So as I mentioned, the lot is sloping south and then towards the east. So we have two inlets proposed towards the south property line that captures 97-98% of all runoff from the property. including any runoff coming from the roof. We are proposing an underground storm tech chambers storage system, which is designed to accommodate a 100-year storm event. And we made sure that the runoff volume from an existing storm, in existing conditions, the storm chambers is designed to make sure that it is going to be much less than the runoff volume coming from the parking lot or proposed parking lot would be much less than what is in existing condition. So, and I believe we have submitted a stormwater management report along with the drawings. And on the report, we have a table that shows the existing runoff as well as the proposed runoff coming from the chambers. I'm just going to open the report on my end as well. So to provide you a comparison, the discharge for a 100-year storm in existing condition is 1.287 cubic feet per second, and with the proposed conditions with the stormwater, the underground stormwater system installed, it will be 0.011 cubic feet per second. So much larger reduction in the runoff coming from the site. Any outflow, outflow from the chambers will be coming from a pop-up emitter that is proposed in the front of the lawn. Although we don't expect any runoff coming from the pop-up emitter for any storm other than a 100-year storm. So it's like once in a 100-year event occurs, we would see some water coming out of the pop-up emitter. I'm going to move on to the landscape plan. So we're providing shrubs in the front area as well as on the northeast corner of the property, and then we are proposing buffering trees with some evergreens along the curb line on the rear side of the parking area. So basically, to eliminate the concern of any lights coming from cars entering the lot and going on to the neighbors' properties, as well as I believe there's fence that's supposed to be installed that should reduce any glares, going on to the neighbor's property as well from cars. These are the details of construction details that we included on the plans. And then finally, the vehicle turning analysis. So for this turning analysis, I used a regular size pickup truck coming in and out of the parking lot. So this the envelope that you see marked as 1 is a car coming into the lot and then parking in one of the spots on the top in the backside. And the envelope number 2 is showing a car that is currently parked, backing out and exiting the parking lot. So in case if there is a car coming in while this car is trying to exit, there is enough space in front of the existing slots where the car can be stopped for until the car clears the alley, and then the second car, number 2, can leave the lot. I think that's the last drawing on my set. I'll take any questions if there are any.
Are there any board members that would like to question the testimony of this witness?
Can I just cut to the chase? Did you read the Collier's report and/or the fire department comments here? I know the architect did not.
No, I have not.
You haven't read, okay.
I do have a question concerning the template. Car number 2 is tucked behind the building. Have you looked at what the required site distance would be for the car that's coming into the parking lot to see this vehicle before he turns in and they're headlight to headlight? You follow
So
me?
I'm trying to understand the question. You're talking about car number 2?
I'm talking about car number 3 that's turning into the parking
turning
lot
into,
on
okay.
Morris Avenue.
Okay.
This vehicle where he is right now cannot see that car. Correct? How do we
So,
prevent that from occurring?
okay, we will certainly consider to include side triangles on this drawing. I don't currently have that. I've not analyzed that from that point of view, but from what I've seen of the site, there are low bushes at this point, or what we are proposing. So I don't believe that should hinder the site distance of cars exiting the parking lot.
And the second question I had was concerning the site drainage. We've heard that the area prior to the trees flooding, trees being cleared and grubbed, the area flooded. Was there any study of the existing soils to see if there was any clay layers or anything that was preventing the soil from perking normally? That would probably contribute to the load on the drainage system from that surrounding area. I know you took care of the paving, but what about the rest of the lot that may drain in that direction?
So we are not disturbing any of that existing area, so, I mean, we're keeping it in the same condition as it is currently.
You didn't observe any flooding going on in that area?
Not to my knowledge, no.
Any other board questions? Hearing none. Are there any members of the public that would like to question? Again, I'm going to repeat myself. Just the testimony that the engineer has provided. Sir, would you like to come up?
Good evening. My name
Good
is John Hennessy, and I live at 978 Townley Avenue. Some of the questions I have is, first of all, this vegetation was taken down and chopped up. We had no notice that it was going to happen. It was made into a disaster. Maybe this shouldn't go to you, maybe to someone else. But it was concerning me, concerning neighbors. The flooding of the area is terrible. And I don't see how anything you put in that ground is going to be able to capture it. It's just sloped, and it's going to be continuous. The other things that are bothering me, it's just getting to that age where I forget a couple. But I think we were kept out of the blue. We were totally unaware of what was going to be happening to our area. You say you're going to put lights in, and they'll be only so high. They're going to glare. They're going to have glare in our bedrooms, glare in our kitchens, everything. This is just, it was poor communications about this whole thing. I mean, everything was, we were kept unaware that we are planning to do this until, guess what? Here's the plans. It's only been a year and a half. It's poor. It's really poor. I'm sorry.
Yeah, I'm not sure.
Thank you. Sorry to come up so often, but I do appreciate it. It's the beauty of the process, right? And let me just share that gentleman's frustration and the neighborhood's frustration. But I do have some questions. I want to begin on the drainage. So you mentioned a 100-year storm. To be clear, Floyd, Sandy, Irene, Ida, storms happen far more than once in 100 years. Are we correct on that? You can name some others probably if you feel like it, shout it out. Right, but to be clear to the board and to us and the public, a 100-year storm doesn't mean it happens once every 100 years. Is that correct?
Yes.
Okay. Can you talk about the intense, I don't know anything about drainage, although I do notice that when you mentioned it slopes south to east, that's Townley, okay, which is the folks talking about, just like this gentleman, who's getting the flooding. He just confirmed it for us in these comments, is the way I understood it from the geography. My question to you is the intensity of storms through climate change, by any edification, and by DEP rules, DEP new rules, setbacks, which I'm sure you're probably familiar with, address the idea that we are now dealing in a different climate and intensity of storms. Does the drainage on this property, as you propose, reflect the new intensity rules that the DEP has proposed?
Yeah, we are following all the new DEP requirements for design of this drainage system.
So could you explain that a little more for us, for those of us that are actually going to deal with the water?
So for example, I'll just give you one example. This property is exempt from a water quality because, we're disturbed with less than 1/4 of an acre, but we are taking into account in the storm tech system to handle any water quality issues that may arise out of the runoff from this parking area.
Is the property, I'm sorry to interrupt you, is the property less than 1/4 of an acre because of the two lots? In other words, when you combine the two lots, I'm not great on this kind of stuff. Is it 1/4 acre when you combine the two?
I'm talking about more than 1/4 acre of additional impervious, which is, we're much less than.
So your 22 spaces doesn't come up to 1/4 acre? The 22 spaces proposed?
Right. The additional impervious surface is roughly about 8,000 some square feet, if I'm not wrong, is what,
And by the way, how many square feet would it be for 1/4 acre?
So 1/4 acre would be around, what, like 12,000, something,
About
12,500,
square feet
yeah,
to an acre.
13,000.
So with that, the intensity of storms, is the collection rate such that it matches, an inch an hour? What we're dealing with today, right, in this world that's here in New Jersey, I'm not being hyperbolic here. We deal with storms that literally have had an inch, 2 inches over 2 hours for a sustained period of time, as much as 3 or 4 hours. Are you representing to us that this can handle that type of collection rate?
So the storm techs, the chambers that we have designed, it is for a 2-hour rain event, as required by NJDEP. So we've designed it for a 100-year storm rainfall volume of a rainfall value that we use NOAA for the rainfall information. So it's designed for a 2-hour storm.
2 hour. Recent events you're aware of, rain today and the intensity of storms expected tomorrow, for example, here, right? Just to put things in perspective for us here.
Right.
Right. I do want to talk to you about the parking, which just looks ludicrous. I'm not supposed to comment. But you said an average truck. I looked. A Ford F-150 is 97.9 inches wide with its mirrors. So it's 8 foot of a 10 foot, correct? It's 7.97 feet if you want to do the math, right?
Right.
So it's 8 feet. So if I understand you correctly, all right? Oh, and by the way, one other premise of this conversation. There is parking currently available in the front of the structure on Morris Avenue. Matter of fact, cars park right in front of 1370 Morris Avenue, do they not?
I was not aware of that, no.
You're the parking guy. You didn't see the parking in front?
In front of the building?
Yeah, right in front of the building, there's a parking spot. There's 2 driveways you park in between, right? One car, right? Sometimes yours, I bet. Right?
Yeah.
Just see, you're the parking guy. All right, so my question to you is, because visibility matters, right? This is a community where we actually lost someone just a couple months ago on Spruce Street. A lady was hit by a car backing out of her driveway on the street, to be candid, and we actually lost a life here. So images matter. They matter very much here.
Yeah, of course.
So you have an 8-foot Ford F-150, all right, and you're coming in on a left hand. We've talked about coming in on the right. I'm actually more curious on the left. So if you come in westbound and you want to come in here, you have no sight line based on the height that you're proposing here and other restrictions and the tightness of the variance. how is it that the signage is supposed to reflect, how is someone supposed to know if there's a car halfway through there? How does that sight line work? How does it visibly work?
Are you referring to the car exiting or entering?
Let's do the car exiting first, sir.
Right.
So there's a car, one of the 22 wants to leave. Someone else wants to come in at the same time. Let's say 5:05 PM, just for argument's sake, a very convenient time on Morris Avenue. And you can't see going left, you want to come in, and there's an F-150 halfway coming down the lot, in a very tight lot. Let's be candid about it. It's only a foot each on each side. It's 8 feet. It's a total of a 10-foot driveway. So you have a foot on each side, just to put it in perspective, right? Coming down, the car makes a left and comes in and can't traverse the rest of the driveway because it's blocked. Can you just explain to us how this F-150, how far back they would have to go if they were at the edge of the front of the building? How far back they would have to go straight? And how many feet that is, and how that process would work, and how the two cars would back up based on the area that you've shown?
So I'm not sure if I understand the question. Like, are you talking about
Sure.
the side triangle?
Let me try it
or-
again. I'm really not trying to trick you. So an F-150, you said you used an average truck.
Mhm.
All right, so take the property structure, go to the direct head, the front of Morris Avenue to the structure side. All right, so you're at the structure's to your left. You're even, again, I'm not a geography guy, but there's about 8 to 10 feet to the sidewalk. All right, I think that's about right. I
Yeah,
might be off,
yeah.
but somewhere, right? The guy makes a left coming in at rush hour on Morris Avenue, so we're clear with each other, right? Is the F-150 now expected to back up, which is what your testimony is here? How far back is that truck supposed to back up in order to allow the other car?
No, that car would have to exit first, and the other car would be able to, if your truck, what you're saying, is almost at the end of the driveway, they would have to exit before another vehicle would be able to come in.
Okay. So if you make the left under my proposed, and by the way, very common scenario, you would have to be omniscient to know that the truck was there, or we would have to depend on driver courtesy? Like, driver courtesy would be that gentleman would not make a left? Is that the idea, or a lady who's driving?
I mean, I would think so that if you see a car exiting and there's no room,
My scenario too, sir, is that
Right.
based on the heights of these buildings, based on the lack of visibility, based on a car being allowed to, as they are today, parking in front, you would not have the visibility to do so, right? That's fairly logical, I think, to most of us that are sitting here. Am I right about that? So if you can't see it, you can't do it. So when it becomes apparent to you, in the situation I just described to you, and I believe Morris Avenue, correct me if I'm wrong, building inspector, gets somewhere between 15 and 20,000 cars a day.
okay,
Right,
I've
just so we're
not
talking
done
about
any traffic
Did
studies.
you look at the
so-
structure? By the way, I'm curious, did you do the
No,
road count?
I've not done any traffic, I'm not a traffic engineer, no.
Okay. So don't accept my word for it, but that's what I believe it is. So now, when you can't see, all right, there's no choice. When the individual driving makes a left onto 1370's driveway, there is no choice at rush hour. I'll use that, but that's both morning, that is after school, let us not forget school kids, all right, and that is also between the hours of, in my opinion, 4:15 to almost 7 these days, right? When you deal with that, you're now expecting someone to back up. Someone who's driving an 8-foot truck, on average, in a 10-foot road, and you're expecting them to go up, and I'm just asking you to explain to us how far back they have to go, how
They would have
safely
to
they have
go
to
all the way
navigate.
back to the back of the building, I would say, I mean, in order for another car to be able to pass, so.
What's that?
They would have to clear the back of the building in order for
Okay.
another car.
So my ask to you is how far is that? What's
do you mean,
that
how many-
distance of someone in reverse backing up?
I would say about 50
With
feet.
a foot on each side. My
Yeah.
question to you is how safe is that, is really what I'm driving at. So how far back do they have to go?
Yeah, about 50 feet to
About
clear
50
the.
feet.
Yeah.
So I understand that you expect
If
this
there's a
board-
hypothetical scenario where you're saying
It's a
that-
reasonable
right,
one though,
right.
sir. It's a very reasonable one. You're looking at, correct me if I'm wrong, the testimony was 8 to 5,
Yeah,
right?
but
Which means lunch.
Right.
All right, which means, so 44, 1 in, 1 out, plus lunch is 88. If you do that over 8 or 9 hours, it's about 10 traffic flows an hour. My scenario is far from unreasonable, and if folks are unpacking, we didn't hear this from the owner, But she did say 8 to 5 with the potential for expansion. Some of us might interpret that to be that many folks are leaving at 5 o'clock, right? And would therefore create an extensive pattern of exiting onto a sidewalk, a residential side. I don't know that, but you might reasonably do that, right? Because I heard the hours 8 to 5. That said, I'm simply asking you, the expectation is, based on your study, is that someone is going to back up 50 feet with a foot on each side, and you can't tell us or explain to us how that would work in terms of the backup to the back of the property and how that would functionally go? That's what you're telling me.
So, I mean, you know, so, I mean, in a hypothetical scenario where you're saying that a car is already pulled in and there is another car waiting at the end of the driveway, of course, yeah, they'd have to back up all the way up to the back of the building.
All right. And then you don't have a sight line on Morris Avenue coming eastbound, because most times, at least when I've walked and driven, there is a car parked in front of that. Maybe it's yours. All right. You don't have a sight line coming eastbound. Right? Let me just remind folks of that. Those of us that deal with the quality of life that live here, that actually follow the rules. All right, that if you try to make a right there when someone else is coming out, God forbid if they try to make a left at the hours I just suggested to you, that's a difficult left. All right, so that you would have a situation where you have a stationary car eastbound on Morris Avenue with someone trying to go left. I can't imagine that that is a scenario that's acceptable to any relative.
We could certainly show more simulations if that's what satisfies you, but I mean, you know.
What satisfies me is safety, and what satisfies me is common sense. You ask me what satisfies me, I'll tell you what satisfies me. Something that makes sense, something that works with the neighborhood, something that shows some reflection of professionalism, because to my understanding, what is the Collier's report? What is the Collier's report? I've heard it hasn't been read by both the architect and this individual. What is it?
That's the professional engineer's comment. I was quite surprised both the engineer and the architect for the applicant have not considered the traffic report. The traffic comments are in the report. Neither one has addressed the comments.
So this community wasn't even worth your time to read the engineer's report on the comments, and we're up here giving reasonable scenarios that you two are looking at each other, scratching your head about. It's frustrating and arrogant.
Mr. Chairman, we only got the report within the last 24 hours, and the engineer didn't even catch it on his email when I sent it to him. I sent it to as soon as I got it, but I mean, this application has been floating around for a while, and I understand professionals are busy, but the impression that's being given is that we ignored a report. We didn't ignore it. We just didn't get an opportunity to read it because it wasn't provided with ample time.
For the record, the report's dated May 5th, 2025.
We didn't get it.
I'm just telling you what the report is dated May 5th, 2025. You are copied. Whether you got it or not, I can't testify. I don't testify at all. The point is, it's your burden tonight to get D1 use variance relief. We're hearing a lot of, we could do this, we can do that. Obviously, that's not the legal criteria that this board's going to consider. You realize that. So we're making the record. The board's roadmap is its own professionals, including myself as the lawyer. I don't testify. Counsel, I can appreciate that the board.
I apologize for any inference, all right? I did want to understand. I understand, was there another report that wasn't read as well, or is it just a Collier's?
There's a fire report and a Collier's report. The fire report, Collier's defers to the fire department, and there's a number of comments consistent with what you're raising with the engineer about the ability for the fire apparatus, which is bigger than a Ford F-150, to access the site.
So from the standpoint of a resident who pays taxes here, all right, let me just give you this question, I guess. In your professional work, do you ever have to look at fire reports and/or engineers' comments before you come testify?
Of course.
Of course. Did you notice that those comments weren't as part of your application? Did that not strike you as odd?
I wasn't familiar, or I wasn't sure of any of these comments until I came to this hearing, so.
But you did realize that the application was asking for a 10-foot wide driveway, single in, single out, for 22 parking spaces, a 5-time fold extension of what's currently there. You did know that?
Yeah, of course, yeah.
Thank you.
Sure.
Just to follow up on a question, on an answer, from the last report that I had seen, there's 40,000 vehicles that travel down Morris Avenue daily, not 20.
Are there any, I'm asking just for the question, the testimony, not comments. Okay, sir?
My name is Jeff Fleming, live at 986 Townley Avenue. We live on the east side of the proposed building, and as regards drainage, currently the property on the east has a lower elevation than the properties on the southwest. There's a very large slope which would increase the downflow of any substantial rain. Currently, the soil can absorb much of that drainage. With the proposed parking lot, this will be paved, or with pavers or asphalt, whatever, that will reduce the absorption of the rainwaters. So even with the installation of 2 small catch basins, you're minimizing, actually maximizing the flooding into our yards on the east side.
Yeah. So we are proposing a wall on that side of the property, which will basically let all the water run around the wall or the curb into the inlets. So the inlets are designed to
Well, what is the height of the wall?
it's more than 6 inches.
Well, we've had substantial flooding that's actually in excess of a foot.
Well, it's six
And
inches to 2 feet
we've had
high,
water
so, yeah,
sorry.
it tapers, yeah.
Yeah, we've had water come 3/4 up through our property, which is substantial, about 70 feet. So even a foot and a half on a very heavy, not every rain, of course, but on the heavy storm days, it's very substantial. So with the paving there, you won't have the natural drainage. You'll have, if you rely on the man-made catch basins, and I doubt they could, even with the wall, I don't think it will minimize the flood situation.
Okay, well, I mean, we did mention about the runoff calculations in our report, and it does show that, we are substantially reducing the runoff from the property.
Right, because there is a substantial, like I say, elevation change to the southwest.
Yeah, we're taking into account all the grading requirements, all the slopes, to make sure that the water is diverted towards the inlets.
Okay.
Thank you, Mr. Fleming. Sir?
Do I just ask?
Your name and your address?
My name is Phil Polchinski. I live at 987 Lorraine Avenue.
Could you spell that?
Polchinski.
Thank you.
I have a follow-up question to the one about the parking with the cars coming in at the same time. What if there was multiple cars, people leave training at the same time? What if there's 2, 3, 4 cars trying to get out? Now we're all trying to back up for this one car, and that's that's now impeding Morris Ave.
So, I mean, I'm sorry, I've not done any traffic studies for this project. I'm not a traffic engineer, so that would be for another professional.
Okay. The parking lot in the back is a concern, and I have a safety question. Cars jump parking spots all the time. They hit the gas instead of the brake. A 6-foot vinyl fence is not going to protect anybody on the other side of that fence in case of a medical emergency, an accident, whatever you. People have young kids. My kid plays in my neighbor's backyard right up along there. What is your concern, or how did you address that type of safety of preventing any sort of vehicle entering the residents' backyards?
I'm not sure if I think you're referring to accidents. I don't know if that is something.
Well, pulling into a parking spot, our CVS just got, run into a wall
If
very time ago.
if it's required by the township, we would certainly propose blocks to curb cars going beyond the slot. So.
But you haven't thought about that yet. These are people's
Like
backyards.
I said, if it's required, we would provide those, on the plans.
Okay, that's it. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other? Stephanie?
Good evening again. I did want to just kind of correct the assumption. So this is a training office based off of a schedule system. So when we're saying 20 staff members, these people
No,
are not
no,
all
no, no,
going to
no,
be-
no, no, no. You're the applicant's representative. Let's finish with this witness.
No, because
We
I think
can
the
re-enter,
testimonies-
your counsel will re-enter you as a witness. We can't have you
Yes,
testifying
sir.
again.
But the testimonies that were coming up were addressing this issue. That's why I'm able to.
You can resurface and offer any testimony you want. Let's finish with the engineer first, because we're making a record here.
Yes, sir. I'm just stating based off of the previous testimony.
It's
So
not
I'm
the time to
stating
state, it's the time to finish with the engineer. Then you'll have the ability to do it. Absolutely you will.
something. Okay.
Any other public questions?
Can I just confirm, is the engineer, are you a part of the group SMBT Consultants that
Yes.
did the permit plans? Okay.
I'm sorry?
Are you part of the SMBT
Yes.
consulting group?
I'm the
So you did
president
the
of-
separate plans that I
yes,
marked
I'm-
A3? You're not a part or affiliated at all with the JZ architectural group that the architect was testifying on the details
I'm
of the
not.
parking lot, correct? Okay.
Hi, my name is Nancy Hennessy. I live 978 Townley Union. Now, for years, I've lived there, and they had don't parkings in the afternoon, or, every day. When people on Morris Avenue are going down and they're gonna try go to that, people come right there, and you can't get left to go into that driveway, because there's gonna be another one here, or somebody's gonna get killed, really, because where we are, it says don't park, right there. And they said, they park all the way to the corner. So if they try to commit it, they're, because I had a stroke, and
That's okay. You're doing fine, ma'am. You're
it's
doing fine.
it's dangerous because all the doctor and everything here, they park like here to here, right at the, so nobody's gonna will go into there. I just think it's terrible. I really do. And that's what I have.
Thank you, ma'am.
Thank you.
Any other public questions for the engineer? Hearing none. Counselor? Oh, I'm sorry. Mr. Shores?
Like, when their property, will coming from Morris Avenue, their driveway this way, right? Then it goes in back of my property. Is that where the drain is gonna be? Cause that runoff goes into my yard. Cause sometimes when it's real heavy, looks like a pond back there.
So like I said, we are proposing a wall, retaining wall from 6 to 2 feet high, and that should avoid any runoff from the parking lot to
Goes
go into
back
the
to my
neighbor's
house,
property.
that's what I'm saying, back of mine.
You're talking about the south property line right there?
1372, I don't know, north, south, east, and west from my property.
Yeah, so we have a wall on each side, so I don't believe any runoff would go into the neighbor's property.
And one thing about the driveway thing, can't they put a sign, if you're coming out, a sign saying no left-hand turns?
So my testimony is not any traffic studies that we have done, or not done, so I'm strictly providing my testimony based on the drawings I've submitted. I've not done any traffic studies.
No, just to mention one more thing. When you talk about people coming in and coming out, is there any way you get like a traffic light, like red, the guy can't enter, green, he can enter?
That, I'm pretty sure that is possible. That's a good, yeah, I mean, we have done that in other locations where we have, limited space for cars entering and exiting. Yeah, that's quite possible. Yep.
All right, thanks.
Thank you.
Ali, I have a question for you. You had mentioned about this wall, okay? How high is this wall, and would the fence be on top of that wall?
I believe the fence would be on top. It's 6 inch to 2 feet
Okay.
high.
So
at
2
max.
feet now makes that fence 8 foot high, which in that zone only allows a 6 foot high fence. So that would kick a variance in, so
I'd have to check with the architect if they want to put it on top of the fence or if the height would be adjusted accordingly.
because that would kick a variance in, because it's
Right.
only 6 foot, and that 2
Well,
foot, 6 inches, whatever, would be considered.
Yeah, we'll definitely make sure that, we do it as per the township requirements.
Are there any other members of the public that would like to question the engineer? Hearing none, Counselor?
Call Robert Hudak.
Can I ask the witness to swear or affirm that the testimony you provide this evening is the truth and the whole truth?
I do.
And for the record, could you state and spell your name with your affiliation?
Yes, Robert Hudak, H-U-D as in David, A-K. I'm a licensed professional planner in the state of New Jersey. My licenses and certifications are all in order. My business address is 1955 Route 34, Wall, New Jersey.
The board will accept his credentials. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I appreciate that.
Mr. Hudak, you've been retained to give planning testimony on 1370 Morris Avenue, specifically Lot 7, the area proposed for a parking lot behind the house known as 1370 Morris Avenue.
Yes.
Could you please provide the board with your testimony?
Sure. First, I want to address the D1 variance, which we've heard a lot about tonight. As per the Medici versus BPR case, where it outlines what exactly the testimony we need to provide, it notes that we need to demonstrate that the use itself promotes the general welfare as defined under the municipal land use law, because the site is particularly suited for the proposed use. This is a really unique site. As you've heard, Lot 29 is undersized for the zone, the NC zone, which restricts development and flexibility and makes full on-site parking accommodations difficult without utilizing Lot 7. As I understand, 29 and 7 are both in common ownership. Lot 7 is compliant with the RA zone with respect to area and width. However, it's functionally isolated. There's no other access to my understanding. The only access is through Lot 7. So these constraints imposed upon the substandard width of Lot 29, combined with the isolation of Lot 7, create a highly unique circumstance where integrating both lots into a single site design, which is what we've done tonight, is not only appropriate but necessary to achieve functional, safe, and policy-consistent development. The Township Master Plan notes specifically that for uses in the NC zone, that parking should be accommodated on site. And it talks about limiting on-street parking. Now, it talks about allowing for maybe one space in front of the building or the width of the property. Again, I know we've discussed it. You can maybe fit one space there, maybe two you can park there, but still would not accommodate all of the parking on the street that we need to, as required by ordinance. I know we've heard about a lot of the safety issues along Morris Avenue, having been there myself over the years, but there's also I don't want to call it a report, but it was a publication by the police department entitled the 2024 Proactive Traffic Safety Enforcement Report. And it noted that there was around 2,400 accidents that occurred along Morris Avenue, Stuyvesant Avenue, and Route 22. This report dates to like 2022, 2023. And most of those accidents occurred during the peak traffic times, and which is from 6 a.m. to 6 p.m., which aligns with the business hours as spoken about tonight. So the desire to have off-street parking, again, we're only talking about the use, not about the specifics necessarily in this part of the testimony, but the use of that rear lot for parking, whatever kind of parking it is, makes sense, because reducing on-street parking and keeping the vehicles off-site, as noted by your master plan, directly supports purpose A, the general welfare and safety purposes of zoning, purpose H, the free flow of traffic purposes, and purpose M, the efficient use of land. By combining the site together, so to speak, and integrating it the way that we've proposed, it gets all those cars off the street. There's also some case law with respect to this, and I'm not an attorney, but I'll just note what it says. AMG Associates versus the Township of Springfield, the New Jersey Supreme Court reviewed a very similar case to this. The front of the lot was zoned commercial, and the rear was zoned residential. The applicant proposed in that case parking, just as we do, on the residential portion, and a permitted use, which we have here, in the front portion, the commercial portion. The court held that the residential portion to be effectively unusable, which is sort of the scenario here, because the only way to access our site is through Lot 7, the commercial zone. And allowing the parking, which the court said was a more benign use than a commercial use of the site, was a remedy against an unconstitutional taking. Now, I don't want to talk too much about that, as I'm not an attorney, but that's what the Supreme Court said. In our case, Lot 7, in my opinion, can't practically develop as a standalone residential lot. The likelihood of us putting any kind of residential use there is very slim, because you're going to have to go through the commercial zone, which would require additional relief. Therefore, the only logical and beneficial use, in my opinion, of Lot 29 is to use it for on-site parking, or a portion of it. So, with respect to the Medici criteria, the applicant meets that positive criteria for the use variance due to the inaccessibility and isolation of Lot 7, the need for on-site parking to meet your safety and planning goals. Again, we're complying with your parking standards. We have enough parking on site. And aligns with the precedent set in AMG Associates. The site is particularly suited for the limited expansion of parking into the RA zone, and the use promotes the general welfare. Now, there are a number of variances that we're seeking tonight. I did have a chance to peruse the Collier's report and the other reports, and to note that there's a number of variances that we're seeking, one of which we eliminated. We eliminated, I believe, Mr. Goodman, if you'll correct me if I'm wrong, we are complying with the buffering requirement by providing fencing or landscaping along the edges of the parking area, correct?
Yes.
And we are also providing the lighting, which meets the lighting standards as outlined in the ordinance, am I correct?
Yes.
Okay, so there's several of the variances that we've eliminated through testimony tonight. As I've noted, with respect to Lot 29, it is a narrow lot. It doesn't meet the minimum lot width requirements. Under the C1 criteria, which is known as the hardship variance, this is where the exceptional narrowness, shallowness, or shape of a property, or some exceptional topographical condition, or other exceptional situations affecting the proposed development results in practical difficulties, which is what a hardship is, for the applicant in complying with the code. This is an existing condition. The lot is what it is. I mean, Lot 29 is a narrow lot. We're not getting property from the adjoining property owners. Because this is an existing condition, we need to locate the building in the position it's in order to build provide the compliant parking, provide the access that we require. And due to this limited space, I offer that there is a hardship here with respect to the variances we're seeking. With respect to the C2 criteria, where the benefits of the proposed deviations outweigh the detriments, where the proposal offers a better zoning alternative, and where the proposed the proposed variances will actually advance the purpose of zoning, as noted, we have to seek enough space to provide access to the rear of the property. We're providing the parking. The space sizes, as noted in that we need a variance for, are compliant with consistent traffic safety standards. I've heard testimony on this a number of times. We are providing for screening from the required parking spaces from the residential zone. So I offer that, again, the alternative is that we can't provide the on-site parking, which your master plan specifically says should be something we do, it's encouraged. So with respect to those C1, I believe we are advancing the safety and general welfare, free flow of traffic, and efficient use of land purposes as outlined in the municipal land use law. With respect to the negative criteria, the proposed development should not cause any substantial detriment to the public good and not substantial impairment to the intent and purpose of the zone plan. any variance creates some sort of detriment. Obviously, it's not contemplated in the zone, or not contemplated based on a specific lot. But the key word here is substantial. So I offer that the use is permitted in the front half of the property. So issues like traffic and issues like design and height and such, we've already discussed that. It's already been agreed to by the governing body that those standards are acceptable for that zone. With respect to the rear use of the property, again, we're only using a portion of it. We are conserving a good portion of that rear property to ensure that there is some green space left back there. Although it's not part of anyone's testimony, I assume that at some point we would be providing additional plantings in that green space so that it could be enhanced. I offer that as far as light, air, and open space, I mean, we are providing buffering, we're providing greenage back there. Again, it's with respect to the building locations, we have a narrow lot. There's not a lot we can do with this subject property. So in my opinion, there are really no significant detriment to the public good nor intent and purpose of the master plan and zoning ordinance. In fact, I think as far as the master plan goes, we're actually advancing one of the most important goals that is mentioned in the master plan for the NC zone.
Let me just start, Mr. Chairman, if I could, since he mentioned legal cases. I'm familiar with the cases as the lawyer for the board. You would agree that the analysis is site-specific, correct? You can't just, in a vacuum, cite generalities and legal principles without considering the site, correct?
Correct. And what I did was I looked at it, and actually this was brought up to me, if I may, by another attorney in another case, that I had a similar case like this in the Atlantic Highlands. And the attorney actually cited the case to me. He said, do you know the AMG case? Because that's that's the answer to your question here. In that scenario, however, my case, we had a through lot. The front half was in the commercial zone, the rear half was in the residential, and we were accessing it through the residential zone, actually accessing the parking. That's similar to the AMG case. In our case, we're not accessing, or we have no access to the parking through the residential zone. We are parking there.
Don't you see that as part of the problem in terms of the testimony we heard from the architect, for example, where you're maximizing the structure, you're putting a third story, you're using complete use of the basement area, that conjures into a certain amount of parking spaces. You're expanding and enhancing on a use that has existed for some time without this type of impact. Whether it's substantially negative is for the board ultimately to determine, but the reality is, with what's proposed in the site suitability analysis, the expansion really is self-inflicted by the applicant, is it not?
Well, it's within the permitted confines of the ordinance, so what you're essentially
but
saying...
there's bulk variances. There's bulk variances for the structure. I mean,
we're talking specifically about the use here, because you brought up the use issue. What we're proposing, there is no variance related to the use in the NC zone. So any use, and again, the height, we're going up to the permitted height requirement. We're not exceeding that. So there's no variance for height. The use itself is contemplated in the zone. It's not something that's outside of what the governing body and the planning board envisioned for this zone. So what I'm arguing is essentially that this use, which is a permitted use, you're further restricting it because we really can't accommodate the parking outside. I mean, theoretically, can you build a much smaller building on the site?
Well, that's more than theoretical. That's more than theoretical. That's actual. Because there's adjustments to the building that are being proposed, and one of the legal criteria that I advise this board on often, and I've been its attorney for almost 20 years, is those adjustments that can be made by an applicant address the impact from the variances. So that's what we're doing here. That's what they'll deliberate later, and I'll probably try to summarize and so advise them, as I often do. But it's not simply a use that is permitted. You cannot operate without the parking that's necessary in the RA zone. That's the difference here. It's different, in my opinion, and since you mentioned legal cases, I'll offer my opinion on it. You have a site here that cannot allow the use to exist without extending on to the RA zone for essential parking. I mean, that's the problem. And some of the negative criteria, and Colliers mentions it, is that you have to get traffic analysis and some details when you're going to have this impact, this increased impact for a site that's not suitable. It's undersized. There's, we know that by the driveway width. I mean, it's 10 feet. It's just not accommodating to an enhanced use to that level. At least that's what Collier said we need to hear testimony tonight about. we've heard none. I mean, we've heard negativity, and that's something that's of a concern.
Sure, I mean, I guess, you know, with respect to that, can you build something tiny? I mean, we could build a shack on there and only need 2 or 3 parking spaces.
Well, there's something there. There's something there that's existed for some time, and on either side of it, and along that part of Morris Avenue. I mean, if you're familiar with the area, you know that this structure would be out of character, in fact, as testified by the neighbors most impacted on either side. When you're putting the 3rd floor and teeing it off, you know, we heard that, oh, the height permits it, but that's not the analysis alone when we're dealing with a D1 situation. And we're dealing with bulk setback deficiencies. I mean, that's important.
So what you're saying, and if I'm incorrect, please clarify it to me. So the applicant can't build to the height requirement simply because, which they're allowed to do as of right, they can't build that because you're saying the lot is constrained. To me, I've always heard the opposite of that the applicant should be able to build to what the ordinance requires. And again, there are setback issues, I understand that, but as far as the use goes, you know, we are complying with the height requirement. It's not like we're going to 70 feet or something like that.
No,
which
I
would
don't-
probably
I
out
don't-
of character for the zone.
I don't think you fully appreciate my comment when you said, oh, there's setback issues, I understand that. The setback issues are part and parcel to what you're trying to do with the enhanced use. The use that is proposed is permitted in the NC zone, not a commercial zone, as you were saying. It's a neighborhood
corridor zone.
Very different, you know, and we have neighbors all around the site, and it's been that way for decades. And this particular site, and that's what we're here to do, it's site suitability and the particularity of the site. 'Cause we're not dealing with an enhanced use, it's an admirable use. I understand that they train people to get into the school system and help students. No issue with that, you know. The issue is the functioning office use. That's what we're dealing with here, and getting in and out of the driveway. I don't know if we've heard, I mean, the record is what it is, and the board will deliberate, but in terms of getting out of that driveway, if someone's trying to exit and somebody's trying to come in off Morris Avenue, sounds close to impossible to me, but I don't vote. You know, that's the reality.
And I'm not a traffic engineer. I don't
I understand
pretend
that,
to be, but I appreciate your comments. But my understanding of the way the land use law has operated is that as far as the use is concerned, if the use is a permitted use, things like height and such really, and again, we're meeting the front yard setbacks as well. You know, perhaps the governing body should reconsider some of the, and again, I'm not arguing they should, but maybe they should consider some of those things when they allow such uses in this zone, knowing that there's these existing, because there's a number of these existing non-conforming lots in that immediate area as well. But none of them have that access to that rear lot like we do. So that's what you need.
Well, there's a lot of smaller offices, there's smaller groups of professionals dealing with offices that don't require 22 parking spaces, and that's what the board, very familiar with the area, that's their role. They have that deference because of their familiarity with the area, that's why they're here. I mean, that's really, you know, I wanted to comment on the use of the case law for sure. I mean, they'll deliberate and do what they have to do. I mean, your testimony is so noted.
Certainly, yeah, no, I appreciate your comments and feedback. Like I said, I've testified before on such situations, and typically, that's the scenario, is that when you do have a residential use like this in this rear lot, it's, again, we're not utilizing the entire lot, we're not making it commercial in the sense that we're not putting the commercial building back there, we're simply providing parking, which is a more benign use than having a building that occupies the entire lot.
But you do agree, you said it, and just to be clear, the board needs to deal with the negative criteria and the impact and whether that's substantial to allow it to reject what's proposed in the D1 context.
I mean, they have the role to deliberate
right,
and determine whether it's substantial or not.
Correct.
Because there is always a detriment, as noted, the courts have noted on numerous cases.
Right.
You
Oh,
know,
absolutely.
that any variance that's granted is some way detrimental. Here, it's not the use, it is the use for the one lot, lot 7, but with respect to the lot in the NC zone, there is no, we're not seeking a use variance for that lot.
Thank you.
Are there any board members that would like to question Mr. Hudak's testimony? Hearing none, are there any members of the public that would like to come forward and question the testimony?
Mr. Goodman, you don't have no other witnesses, right? Okay.
Thank
Oh,
you.
just,
I need a
Mr.
recess.
Crine, before you begin, I cut off
What?
the applicant before. I don't know
Mhm.
if you want to reintroduce what she was trying to say. I don't want to make it seem like I shut her down. She was testifying when the engineer was testifying. It's up to you, counsel, if you want to put her back on the stand before we offer public comments, or do you feel the comments got? I want to be fair.
About 25, 30 years.
We'll continue with questioning of Mr. Hudak.
Thank you, Mr. Goodman, I apologize.
Thanks. Hi, Mr. Hudak.
Hi, Mr. Crine, how are you?
Good, I'm good. I'm not a lawyer, but I'm obviously have a position here that I'd like to make clear. So I do have a question for you. The first case you cited, could you just tell us what that case name
Oh,
was?
the Medici case?
Yes.
So the Medici case
Medici,
is
is
the
that what it was? That's all I need.
Medici versus BPU. And I don't want to step on the attorney's toes on
No,
that
I
one.
just have some
That's
questions.
that's the seminal case that discusses what is required for the D1 use variance.
I just have some questions about it. Did the Medici case, to your understanding, have a full comment from the traffic engineer? And were there comments back, like the Collier's report, before the court considered it?
I don't know off the top of my head.
Were there comments back on fire? Did the Medici case address safety for the residents and/or the employees of the building?
No, I don't recall that.
Did the Medici case in any way deal with a design that included lighting and where that design might be for parking?
I don't know off the top of my head.
Okay.
And again, I only
Do you
cited
know
it.
if- I'm only,
No,
sorry,
no.
I get you.
No, Mr. Grine, I appreciate that. The only reason I cited that is because that's the two elements, the furthering the goals of the MOUL and site suitability are the two prongs of the use variance. It's the only reason I
I hear
cited
you,
that case,
but
so yeah.
apples and oranges, at least to me, is that they're complete cases, right? So the Medici case at least doesn't seem to me, as again, a non-lawyer and a non-planner, to be apples to apples, because those comments
Before you do that,
clearly-
Counselor, would you mind opining on the Medici standards a little bit?
The board's certainly familiar with Medici. We're at the public comment portion of the hearing right now. It was rightly submitted. I think the comments are fair from a layman's perspective, trying to understand what Medici is. You know, it's a
Yeah,
hotel.
By the way,
I don't want to get accused of being an attorney.
Let me just move
okay.
on then. The Springfield case that you cited,
Mhm.
I had the same questions. Was there an interface and any sort of emergency management input that made the case, that was inputted and validated that folks would be safe and fire could in fact reach a necessary emergent situation in that brief?
I don't recall fire being part of that case.
Okay. Was there anything in terms of EMS safety in regards to that you're aware of?
I'm not aware of anything within, that the Supreme Court cited in that
Was
case.
there
on
anything in
that.
terms of lighting on parking?
Yes.
Okay, and what did it?
It basically said that the parking, the lighting, to my recollection of the case, was de minimis. I mean, again, typically, in these cases, at least the ones I've been involved in, lighting is shielded in such a way that it would only go onto the parking lot and would dim at certain hours. It would be on timers or something like that.
Okay.
Which is something, again, I'd have to discuss with the
I'm with
client,
you.
but it's something we can
I'm with you.
accommodate.
Did it deal with garbage?
No,
Refuse?
no.
Just so I understand.
No.
All right, and my last kind of question is this. The previous use to this, which you may not be aware of, was a lawyer. Correct me if I'm wrong here, folks, right?
I believe it was in an attorney's
Lawyer's
office.
family.
Yes.
In fact, there's two parcels here that we're talking about, right? Because you reference hardship and master planning, and again, I'm not a lawyer. But I do know this community went through a master plan with significant public input, in fact, I suspect from members of this board as well, and chose not to change the zone of the property that you're asking for a D1 variance for tonight. So we're clear, it's been reviewed sometime in the past few years, and that zone was left the way it is. But your talk was of hardship. Is it, to a layman's prospect, there was a business that thrived there for 35, 40 years. We're all, I admit we don't have that factually, but we can safely say decades. Okay. More than even 50, most likely. Okay. So if a business thrived there for 50 years, and your client buys a property, where's the hardship for the community when the community's reviewed the zoning, decided it needed to stay residential? Isn't the hardship on your client trying to inflict damage to a community instead?
Well, that was my point about the D1 variance. I'm demonstrating that your master plan, which is adopted by your town, has cited the fact that having on-site parking is preferable to not having it, having on-street parking. We have a way to remedy that through using that residential lot for parking.
But to a layman, one could refer or potentially imply that the review of that master plan and the leaving of that zoning where it was, through multiple public conversations, multiple public hearings, in fact, the governing body made that decision to, in fact, leave it where it was and not have it be changed by this type of zone.
Well,
That's my opinion.
Yeah, no, I understand where you're going with that, and I would, from a layman's perspective, may be correct. However, what I'm arguing is that you have those two lots as existing. If you don't develop that other, that isolated lot in some way, shape, or form, what are you allowed to do there? The only thing you're allowed to do is a single-family home. And my argument is that more than likely will never be developed as a single-family home. So but to say that it can't be developed at all, that it's zoned into inutility, again, I don't want to seek a legal standard here, but from my layman's perspective, what's going to happen to that lot? From my planning experience, I would say the most likely use is to use it exactly as we're proposing, to have some element of the commercial use bleed onto that lot and develop a portion of it for some use accessory to that commercial use.
Understood. And from this layman who just happens to live in the area, from my perspective, from looking at it, the property gets purchased knowing full well it required a variance immediately. And by the way, over the objections of the township, has mature trees removed to create a hardship to a community, then lets the property fall into significant disrepair, including cardboard, empty windows, a blight on the entire community, including its values and its quality of life, and then comes before this board in a situation where the property is so blighted that somehow or another we're supposed to accept less than the best, and we shouldn't do that. Thank you.
Any other questions?
I need to say my name again? John Ferranda, 975 Townley Avenue. Sir, the learned gentleman from Wall was one out of 3 people who read the Collier's report. Congratulations. Thank you for that. I say that respectfully. You hired an architect, an engineer, an attorney, and this presentation, and God bless all of you up here who have taken the patience level and the attorney to listen to a presentation that is so woefully incomplete. We have sat here as residents, and I'll use the word layman right now. All my neighbors, all of here, we haven't heard anything specific about fencing, lighting, a traffic study. That stuff I don't know how you accept this kind of a plan, and I'm trying to be fair to you, Stephanie, but when you hire people at this level and take over 2 hours of residential time and these people's time to come up here and not have those answers, it's beyond me. This is the 21st century. Let's have an outbreak of common sense. I beg this board in the future, if we have situations like this, there's got to be some criteria for information flow. This, to me, we sat here for 2 hours, and you brought up a lot, you've enlightened us, sir. You've given us a lot of great information that is still not included in this plan. So I don't know where, what your threshold of pain is to continue to listen to stuff that's incomplete. We as residents still don't have the answers that we need to make a value judgment and make positive or negative comments about what's going on. It needs to be, this has got to be better. It's got to be better than this. Thank you.
Are there any other members of the public that would like to question Mr. Hudak? Just his testimony, no more comments.
Just a quick question. When did you receive the Collier's report?
I received it just before this hearing.
Okay, thank you.
Are there any other questions from the public?
My name is Nancy Hennessy.
Yeah.
I've lived here since 60s. And now that they've taken all the trees down, and now behind our yard, there's like a fence And then from there, it just stops. And it's like, it looks, well, you said you live on Mars, Lorraine? No? Yeah. What do you think? What are they thinking? Looking like what you used to be a fence, or, you know, originally, I don't know if it was a doctor or now is a doctor. He used to have collies, and, you know, you would see them and everything, and there were always people there cleaning it up. And, you know, now it looks like shit and plays here, you know, and it's an eyesore, but, you know, and I don't defend it's gonna help it, you know? Like, and then to say, well, you're gonna get it fixed, well, fine. What about all the people from Lorraine, they're coming down with all the, you know, the water and everything? It's just, you know, it's bad. So.
Thank you, ma'am. Are there any other members of the public that would like to question Mr. Hudak? Hearing none. Counselor?
Yeah, Mr. Chairman, if I could ask for a 5-minute break to speak to my client,
Sure.
speak to counsel.
Sure, 5 minutes. Mr. Goodman, we finished with Mr. Hudak. Did you want to recall the applicant?
No, not at this time.
Okay.
I guess before we do public comments, obviously, Mr. Chairman, if you want to do that, but what my client requests at this time is to withdraw her application.
I had conversations with counsel, and legally, just so we're clear, counsel, I believe if you withdraw it after the record going through the way it is, it's with prejudice, which means this does not get built. It has the effect that if the only way something can be done on this site, it would have to be through a substantially changed, different application. So you have the right to withdraw. It's not a continuance, it's not something that's getting kicked down the road.
Yeah.
This plan dies and does not happen.
Yeah, it's my understanding, and I voiced it with my client, that she can come back, but it has to be a substantially changed application, addressing all the concerns that have been brought forward, and obviously substantial reduction to the size, perhaps, substantial reduction to any parking requests, and fulfilling all the obligations that were set out in the engineering report and from the addressing the fire concerns. So with that said.
Right, and just I'll add, gratuitously, dealing with code enforcement and some of the issues affecting the site now, unrelated to what the land use board does, but we heard a lot of frustration and a lot of detail about things that need to change. And the board will vote to determine if it gets withdrawn.
Yeah, I understand that. And
Okay.
I just want to say that I think my client has erred more out of omission, not knowing the right thing to do, not consulting the right people, not getting good advice, as opposed to any malevolent intent to disrespect the neighborhood or disrespect the board or disrespect the professionals.
Okay, well, if it's the applicant's desire, Mr. Chairman, to withdraw the application, you can't make them go forward. I mean, we can determine to do a motion in a second. I suggest that it would be with prejudice, as if the board did rule. So it would have preclusive effect on the applicant to come forward. I don't want to call it res judicata, but we are going to do a resolution acknowledging that it's being withdrawn voluntarily with prejudice.
And like any application, substantial changes get you
Right,
another.
we'll cross that bridge if we come to it.
Thank you.
Just so the public understands that what the applicant has opted to do, through some of the legalese you heard the council and I discussing, is not go forward with the application. So we were here for a long time. We had a lot of testimony. Normally what would happen, you still would have the opportunity to comment generally. The board would then deliberate, and then ultimately they vote. And they could vote, they would need 5 votes to approve the application. Short of that, it would have been denied. What the applicant is proposing, they're not going to build it, they want it withdrawn. So they would not be able to simply come back here in a week, a month, 2 months, 6 months, even a year from now with this same application. They would be forbidden legally from doing that. They have to do a substantial change on notice and a whole new set of plans and processes back to square one. So what you came out tonight to hear and to hear a vote on, not being adjourned or continued, it dies tonight. So there won't be, if the board is so inclined to accept the withdrawal. And I recommend legally it makes sense under the circumstances. And certainly the public is here. If anyone has any questions, let's hear it. Mr. Crine, absolutely, come up to the...
I apologize, I just have one. The
Yep.
properties of light currently.
Yeah.
So assuming the board accepts the withdrawal application, what are the opportunities for the community to have the property fixed so we don't have to endure the terrible condition, the gray windows we spoke about?
Very good point. This board is limited jurisdiction in that regard, but what I did, and I referenced it gratuitous with Mr. Goodman, because it's his client, but ultimately, Mr. Manguso's office gets to deal with the applicant on the summonses, on the details, things need to change, and he will enforce that totally separate from anything that happened here tonight or will happen in the future for the development of the property. There's certain standards that would have to be fulfilled. I'll reference it in the resolution because I mentioned it, but this board doesn't have governance for that, but Mr. Manguso's office certainly does from code enforcement.
Thank you, counsel. We look forward to that as well. Thank you all.
No problem.
Thank you. At this time, may I have a motion and a second per the Well, per the applicant's
Withdrawal with prejudice.
I would like a motion, a second, to withdraw this application.
Mr. Chairman, I'd like to make a motion to withdraw calendar number 3454, Overcomers ABA Services LLC, address being 1370 Morris Avenue, Block 1303, Lots 7 and 29, voluntarily with prejudice.
Second motion.
Roll call, please.
Mr. Bentavagina?
Yes.
Mr. Johnson?
Yes.
Ms. Martins?
Yes.
Mr. McNeil? Mr. Wiley?
Yes.
Mr. Graves?
Yes.
And Mr. Champy?
Yes. Thank you. Can I have a motion?
I will memorialize that resolution, and I'll try to get it on the June 4th calendar. We did already, didn't we? Oh, you got to go?
Yes, yeah. This should go fast. All right. Our second case this evening is calendar number 3451, J. Mendez, located at 2346 Springfield Avenue, Block 4707, Lot 14.01. Applicant wishes to construct an addition with insufficient setbacks. Are you the Mr. Mendez?
Yes.
Okay.
For the record, I know I swore you in the last time, Mr. Mendez, but once again, just for the record, you're still under oath. You're here tonight as the applicant and the owner, and your wife, for the record, what is your name?
Alexa de Jesus.
Okay. Just to cut to the chase, because I know it's late, and I appreciate that you guys sat through the other hearing, of which there was a lot of public. We adjourned the last time. We didn't start the testimony in any particular detail.
Correct.
I do note for the record that there was a submission by a professional. It was a
Correct.
planner.
Yes.
I assume he's here tonight to address the plans.
Yes, he is.
I did mark what he submitted, so it is part of the record. And unless you have, do you want to offer an opening, or do you want to cut right to the chase with your professional?
I can do it. I definitely can do an opening.
Okay.
Yeah.
We will swear him in. You authorize him to testify on your behalf, correct?
Yes.
Okay. For the record, if I can ask the witness to swear or affirm that the testimony you provide this evening is the truth and the whole truth.
Yes, I do.
And for the record, if you would, state and spell your name with your affiliation, your area of expertise for tonight.
My name is Jeffrey Gogan, architect and planner out of Morristown, New Jersey, 35 Pine Street. I've been functioning as an architect and planner in that area
Excuse me,
for
could you spell your
about
name
40 years.
first? Could you spell your name first?
Oh, Jeffrey is spelled with a G, Geoffrey, Gogan.
And you've testified previously as both a planner and an architect in a professional capacity?
Yes, I have.
And all your credentials are still in good standing from the last time you were accepted as an expert in such capacity?
Yes, they are.
Mr. Chairman, I would recommend that the expert could be offered as both and you'd be offering planning and architectural testimony this evening?
Yes, I will.
Okay, so noted for the record.
Could you summarize your credentials real quick?
I'm sorry?
Could you summarize your credentials real quick?
Yes, I attended NJIT from 73 to 78, graduated with a Bachelor of Architecture, and did my internship for different firms in the Newark metropolitan area for several years. Became licensed in 1983 and opened a firm in Morristown in 1984.
The board will accept your credentials.
Thank you. So I'm trying to maximize, I guess it's large enough, right? So I can, why don't you
would you like to be
introduce
seated?
the project a little bit?
See them.
Oh, do you want to explain the
you can use that
project?
mic.
A little, you want to?
And if you want to refer to anything, I'll try to scroll to it. And
Okay. Good evening, board members.
Oh,
good evening.
I'm Alexa de Jesus, my husband. We're the property owners of 2346 Springfield Avenue in Vauxhall area. Been there for quite some time now, raising our children there. We also have our children here. I have my son, Miguel, who's 23, just graduated Stockton University last week, and he's back home. And I also have my daughter, Jelani Mendez. She is 15 years old. She's being homeschooled at home. I also have Alanis and Melania, the ages of 11 and 9. They attend a private school in Scotch Plains. And basically, I just want to, this is the reason why we're trying to do the addition and the renovations to our home. I just want to reflect back to like 2020, back into COVID, and when my children were home and they were being virtually, doing online classes. By then, Miguel already had graduated Union High School, and he went off to college, and I had to basically do all 3 girls at home and within that space. Right now is 3 bedrooms, 2 baths, and we're expanding. I mean, we have a big family. We're trying to do the renovations just because we want the girls. I mean, they're getting to an age where they want to have their own space, and especially Jaylani, being that she's doing homeschool at home, and just looking for some space within for my children to have their own privacy. And when they're doing homework or sometimes they have online classes, I just want to give them the space to have those, the rooms of each and one of my children. Again, Miguel is back home, and another reason for the expansion and the addition to our homes. And so we came about last year. We decided that is either selling or keeping the property and doing some kind of renovations for, to our home. We decided we want to go ahead and, do the renovations to our home. And so we submitted an application, and we have now the variance in place. And so I would like to now just turn it over to Mr. Gogan to explain the comments that were provided by the engineering department.
Just before you do that, can I just confirm on the record, your intent that the board grants favorably to the application is to continue with the single-family residential use, correct?
Yes.
Okay, that's important to note for the record, because when there's
Yes, it's
additions
going
done,
to continue to stay.
and there's other things, that's something we will put in the record.
Yeah, it'll stay as a single family.
Thank you. I don't know if any other board members has questions of the owner.
Any members want to question the applicant?
I'm sorry?
Hearing none? Would you like to?
Yes, okay.
Start.
Thank you. I wanted to start with the set of plans that were submitted, although this is a color PDF, but your prints were black and white.
For the record, Mr. Gogan, not to cut you off, I did mark A1, the application as it was submitted. I marked A2, the prior plan, as it were, and I marked A3, the updated and revision. So that's all a part of the record, and anything colorized we can add off of A3.
So you said you marked, just to refresh the board, there was another architect involved.
Correct.
Originally, Zen Architecture.
Right.
And I'm basically taking over the project. I've talked to them, they're cooperating, and I've recreated all the drawings, basically.
Yep.
The only thing I do have, if you marked their set, I did leave their demolition plan in the bottom to the last page of this exhibit, which was not printed in the set that you received.
All right, why don't we mark it A4 then, as you're going to be referring to it?
Yeah, I will. I will look at it quickly. Most of it is on my plan, but I just wanted to, this is the one that I'm talking about, that was actually created by Zen Architecture.
It's a demo plan.
Yes.
I do know, too, your submission, I believe it was yesterday or the day before, was circulated. Did that go to the board as well? So your summary, both to the Collier's comments and some of the particulars from the last
yes.
presentation, were circulated to the board?
Yes, it should have all been circulated, yeah. I'm just going to go back up to the aerial photo to show the essential issue here. Sorry, I'm just going to get used to this computer. I'm not used to the interface.
The board secretary is noting, you actually submitted a sealed copy, so I'll mark that A5, because it's a very good summary. I read it. I agree legally, too. You made some comments based on some of the issues raised, whether it's an RB zone. I mean, so you're going to testify to that, but I'll call it A5 for the record as your submission dated. It happens to be dated August 18th, 2024 for some reason. I guess that's typographical. But the version that was circulated yesterday.
So let me just see if I can Sorry about that. I'm not used to this interface here. Trying to. Okay. So I'll just talk as I look at some of these photos. This is the Springfield Avenue side of the building as it is today. Bertha is to the right on the corner. I'm going to go up to the aerial photo. This street right here is Bertha, which is off of Springfield. And, oh boy. I don't know why it keeps highlighting. I don't mean to do that. But the issue really that's brought us here tonight is they want to put a small addition, well, relatively small. It's going to be along this left side, what we look at and think of as the left side of the house, looking from Springfield Avenue, which is the current front face of the house. We want to build to the left off of that side yard, what we think of as a side yard. Unfortunately, the ordinance definition for yards, for corner lots, says that your front yard has to be determined by the side of the lot that's, I believe, the narrowest. So in other words, Bertha Avenue is technically the front side of the lot, according to the ordinance. So the yard that we want to build in to the left of the building, as you face it from Springfield, is actually technically the rear yard of the property. But yet, many other buildings in the area have these types of expansions to within 5 feet of the property line. So in other words, intuitively, you would look at the building and say, okay, that's a side yard, and we can just build up to the 5-foot side yard requirement. So essentially, we're hoping that the board can look at the site and realize the unique nature and the fact that, for all intents and purposes, the front of this building is not on Bertha, it's on Springfield, and we're building to the side of the existing house. And that we are respecting what is currently required for side yards, interior side yards. And if you're probably familiar with corner lots, a lot of towns, you have 2 front yards. In this town, you have 1 front yard and 2 side yards. One is called the street side yard, and one is called the interior side yard. So we have this pre-existing lot, which has the driveway off of Bertha, the front on Springfield, and they want to build what's technically the rear yard and need a variance because of the rear yard setback. That's the gist of it. And then there are some pre-existing non-conforming conditions with some of the accessory buildings, patios, some of the setbacks, the distances between them and the house, and the coverages for those different yards. The ordinance is quite extensive in terms of what it asks for. So I have added quite a few of those lines to my top sheet. And I think I'll go up there now. Let me see if I can just scroll up. Okay, I'll leave it zoomed in like this. So basically, on this top sheet, I'll just show you, give you an orientation. What I've done is I've put the existing site plan at the top with all the existing setbacks. The coverages are all over here for building and improved lot coverage. And all the different site features are shown here. The existing house is right here. And this is the yard where they want to build just to the left, where there's some air conditioning condensers and a couple of small sheds. And actually, there was once a driveway here years and years ago. You can still see some of the asphalt, but we don't have the full history of when it all changed, but it was many years ago before they purchased the property in 2015. And we think it might have been related to when a median was put in separating the 2 directions of traffic on Springfield Avenue. So everyone was forced to come through the back roads and go around the block and then enter when they're heading west on Springfield. And then down below that drawing, I have the proposed site plan. So if you look at the variances on the right side, we have all these, most of those are accessory variances having to do with setbacks and so on. I don't know if we're going to go through all of them one by one. If you want, we can. But I put all of those dimensions only on the existing top drawing. All those required dimensions and parameters that the ordinance asks for are shown there, and I can go through them if you want. But essentially, there's no change proposed to the existing site. We feel that it was all done with some degree of knowledge by the township. For example, the previous owner put the patios in, the driveway, the fire pit, and this little barbecue area. The current owners installed the pool and originally had a small set of steps up to the pool, like one of these mobile pool steps. It's an above-ground pool. And they were having trouble with that, with safety and so on, so they decided to build a small deck around it and have more permanent, safe structure with a guardrail and everything. And so some of this work was inspected, like when they put the pool in, they had inspections for the underground electrical, and I don't know if there's a gas line, at least some inspections for trenching and conduit and so on were done. But they don't have all those records handy. What I showed here was this line is a prevailing front yard setback along Bertha, because there are some rules about accessory buildings in front yards. So I had to kind of distinguish how much, it wants to know how much of it is in the front yard, the percentages and so on. So some of that is what you see there. Now I'll just scroll down to the proposed site plan. And this is where you can see, I'm sorry, so we have 70 feet along the Bertha property line, and we have 84 feet, I think it is, 84, right? Yeah, 84 along this line. So that's why the ordinance forces us to use the narrower, or the shorter corner property line as the front of the building. So it's true that most of the buildings, of course, along Bertha, that is the front side of the building. Because it's a corner lot, sometimes buildings will deviate and to be oriented a different way. So in this case, we have all of their recreational facilities and patio and play areas and parking around these 2 yards, and then the building is in the southwest corner, and they want to build this hatched area essentially here. This whole section of the building exists, although they're going to build a new second floor, essentially clean up all the roof lines, re-side it, replace all the windows. And there's a single-story section in the rear of the building right here, so that will receive a second floor also. The second floor will extend out over that existing single-story roof. But there is no expansion in that direction of the building footprint. The only expansion is to the left in this hatched area. Let's see. I want to go to, I don't know if I should just go through the variances or how much you want to hear about it, but I don't know, I can quickly just run through if you want. But essentially, the main variance we're here for is the fact that this yard is a rear yard. And there are some pre-existing non-conforming conditions with the lot depth also, where we have the 84 feet deep here where 100 feet is required. And that's a factor for us, because if they did have a 100-foot deep lot, we've been much more able to conform, closer to conformance on the rear yard. This is the neighbor's house. Let me see if I have the name of that street. I don't think I have the name of the street handy, but it's the next block over. And this is the side of their house. Their front does front onto the other side, just like we are supposed to front. Their front is on the side street, not on Springfield. But they have a 5-foot setback from this corner of their house to the fence that we have. So it's probably right around 5 feet. And so in other words, their yard here was treated as if it was an interior side yard on the corner property, which is what we're asking for, essentially, the same thing. So the rear yard requirement is 25 feet, and we are proposing 5 feet, I'm sorry. I've actually bumped it over to make it a little over 5 feet, 5.1 feet. And that's the only new variance being created by the project. Actually, everything else is pre-existing, non-conforming, and it has to do with the accessory buildings, and there is an existing non-conformance of this front wall along the Springfield lot line is right on the line. So the proposal is to set the front of this addition back an additional over 5.2 feet back, so it's not going to be aligned with that non-conforming wall. But technically, it is within what's called the street side yard. So some of that terminology is a little new for me too, so let me just make sure I get it right. The street side is required to be 12 feet. So if somebody was building this building today, brand new, they would have to say 12 feet away from this lot line, someplace back in here. I'm going to scroll down now. Impervious coverage, I did all the calculations the engineer asked for in terms of breaking it down in the different areas contributing to the impervious coverage. And basically the net is to reduce the total impervious coverage slightly. We're reducing it from where it is now, which is 69.5% down to 68.7. Slight reduction, but it is a little bit more conforming, but it's just continuing the non-conforming coverage. The Collier's also asked about, and I'll go through all of his comments in a second, but he asked about buffering. There's a very beautiful, mature hedgerow of arborvitae along this property line now, which is quite well developed. They've actually got irrigation, so they look better than almost any arborvitae I've ever seen. I think I might have a good picture of it. I'll show you. And they've put a similar hedge all along this side now, which has been there for a couple of years, and it's also developing very nicely. So that would remain as a buffer, and it'd be higher than 6 feet. It's probably already closer to 8 or 10 feet in some of it. And there are a couple of also decent trees here. One is a fir tree, I think, and one is pine, spruce, I think it is. Spruce and pine, right? The owner actually works for one of the big landscaping companies in the vicinity, and so has a lot of resources to do anything he wants to do here very well. Then there's a lawn area here with a couple of short trees. You could almost call them shrubs, but they're short trees. Another lawn over here is proposed. Let me just keep going down here, look for anything else. Okay, the fence is required to be, there's a front yard setback for fences, 7.5 feet. There's a fence that's been here since, I looked at Google photos, street photos, and I could go all the way back to the early teens, like 2013 or so. So there's always been a fence along here, and they replaced that fence with a vinyl fence. So I'll show you pictures of that. I don't know if I have the old one, but. And then there's another fence setback for corner lots of 2 inches, I believe. It's either 2, I think it's 0.2 feet. When you have a fence, you're not supposed to put it right on the property line. You're supposed to have it just a few inches off the property line. And right up in this area, there's the existing fence, which has, again, been there for probably decades, but it was replaced. It tapers up like this to give a little more elbow room to this neighbor's driveway, and he uses that he has tracking pads where he drives up back to where his garage is. And so that's been retained. You know, he's leaving that little bit of encroachment of his driveway. But right up here, the fence kind of crosses the line for a few feet and then comes back around. So it's just one of those things. Let me see what else. Okay. Yeah, that's the 2-inch rule. Distance from principal building. There's an existing pavilion right here. It's basically one of those Costco kits that you just bolt down to the pavers, and it was probably put up during the COVID years when everybody was on top of each other trying to work at home, do schooling at home, and just needed more outdoor covered space to get some fresh air and space between, you know, when they're doing things and not have the constantly have the interruptions during Zoom chats and Zoom courses and things like that. So they just put that up. There were no permits for it. They thought of it kind of like a piece of site furniture. It's low, it's open, and they'd like to keep it if they can. So I put the dimensions in there for that as if it wasn't there yet, thinking that you may want to just legalize it. But essentially, those types of structures are supposed to be 10 feet from the principal structure. They're just under that at 9.7. The next one is the front setback of accessory structures. There are a bunch of, I put all 4 of those numbers together on the same line. But if you look back up here, you'll see where I showed all these front setback dimensions to the pool, to the pavilion, to this patio, which is considered an accessory structure in Union Township. Even patios are supposed to respect those accessory setbacks. And then a line existing, accessory structures are not supposed to be in front yards. They're supposed to at least align with the front of the building, or I believe it, I read it to mean the required front of the building, and maybe you can tell me if that's how you're interpreting it. But to me, that required front, if you look at the shading here, I hatched this side of the pool a little darker because it's in front of the prevailing front of Bertha. If you look at where the fronts of those buildings are, that's essentially what I would say is the required front, which, you know, that is, the ordinance does allow you to go to the prevailing line if you're not less than 20 feet. You have to be at least 20 feet, but you don't have to go to the full 25. And then the ordinance asks for coverage calculations for all of these accessory structures as a percentage of the lot area, a percentage of the principal building, and a percentage of the yard that accessory structure is in. So I tried to give you some of those. It's kind of complicated, and it is what it is, pretty much. And basically, a lot of that is patio, pavers, and the pool is the main thing, I would think, because it is technically the front yard. But again, they've never looked at it that way. They've always seen this as the front of the building. So when they put it in, they were thinking, okay, well, let's put a pool in the backyard, you know, because it's way behind the front setback off of Springfield. And again, some of that was done with inspections. So I have all the percentages down at the bottom of this chart, which mainly pertain to the pavers. Some of it complies, some of it's just pre-existing non-conforming. And I'm looking down at my sheet, but it's the lower section of this expanded list of zoning requirements and variances. And all of these numbers are a function of these totals that I gave over here, which come right off the site plan.
I noted too, for the record, Mr. Gogan, your summary, as I said at the start. So why don't I reference for the record that the follow-up will be with the township engineer. The board would defer to make sure that they're in compliance. You had no problems I know you made some comments based on some of the updates in the Colliers report, but generally and substantively, there's no issue complying and working cooperatively with Colliers going forward for the addition, correct?
Yes, we feel that we have already gone through his letter. I'll zoom into that right now and just go through those number of technical comments that he made.
Yeah, no, I noted that they've been addressed, and as I said, the board sometimes does defer to Colliers on those technicalities. As long as you're willing to work cooperatively with them to assure the details are as they expect, we can move on, and I'll note that for the record.
Okay. Yeah, Colliers sent an email saying we've reviewed it enough to know that they have addressed all of our concerns.
I did see that.
I could just rattle off quickly what they were concerned with. I won't spend a lot of time on it, but he talked about the corner lot issue. I've already mentioned the fact that the front is on Bertha, and what we really are building is into what we practically think of as a side yard. He asked for the updated survey. We provided that, and we had spot elevations gathered by a surveyor, which allowed us to do the grading plan, which he asked for. He asked about the buffers, the fencing, and the hedges, which I've explained. He asked for all that detail about the accessory structures, the calculations, the distances, the setbacks. He asked for a dry well system, a seepage pit, and a grading plan, and I'll come down to that in a moment. He mentioned the existing bay window is over the sidewalk of Springfield Avenue, right there. And he asked for the distance, how far out it is and how far above the sidewalk, so I put that on my plan. It's about 13 inches out from the building and about 70 inches above the sidewalk. They're thinking about putting a little planter or something there to keep people from bumping their head, but so far it has never been a problem. It's been there a long time. But it does encroach over the property line. Come back up here. Okay, number 2.7 of his letter had to do with garages, that there is a requirement for at least one garage on each property. This house, we don't believe, has ever had a garage. It actually looks like, I'm just going to go down to the aerial photos again. If you look at the aerial photos, you can see that it looks like it was several buildings. Let me see if I can get a 3D view. You see that? This is the entrance off Springfield Ave. This is a low roof, a low pitched roof facing Springfield. Then there's a flat roof behind it on an upper section, although this is all second floor right now. And then there's the one-story section in the back that they're going to go ahead and build out over that. But it's a building that has evolved over the years, and even the foundations are different, so somehow it's just been added onto over the decades. And you can see the remnants of that in the roof lines, and let me see, like here you can see there's an old parapet, cornice and parapet back there from where maybe there was a building there once that had like a flat roof with a cornice, and then this was added in front at some point decades ago. So this is where the addition's going. And I'm pointing this out because it gets to the planning justifications of improving the overall streetscape of the building, the fact that we're resolving all these weird roof lines with the new system. So essentially, this whole upper floor will only have a couple of pieces of wall left. The whole thing will be taken down and then reframed, and a whole new roof put on top. So maybe what I'll do now is go down to the drawings. While I'm here, let me just, so those are the two mature white pine and spruce trees. You can see the tall hedgerow of arborvitae here and a little bit of it over here. This is from Bertha. This is his tracking pads for his driveway. This is the fence I mentioned that's tapered to allow more room for him to get in and out. And you can see some of the arborvitae here. This is all mature arborvitae. This is a 6-foot fence, so that's at least 12 feet high. and this is the white pine on the corner. So it's already quite well screened. That's the yard with the lawn and so on. Okay. I'll just, as I'm scrolling, I'll just go ahead and show you that we have a dry well design. I think Collier's reviewed all the calculations, said that we complied with the ordinance requirements for storage, which is fairly modest, and we're basically going to pick up all of the roof runoff from the leaders, from the roof, and direct that underground through storm drains over to the dry well. And we're also picking up the roof runoff from the pavilion over to the dry well. And then the dry well is sized to perk out most of the water, but if there's a major storm, we have an overflow pipe coming out this way, down along this side yard. I don't show the arborvitae there, but they're right along there. It's going to come out under the sidewalk through this curb, and there's a storm inlet right here on Springfield. So the water will just come out onto the curb and run over to the inlet if there's ever a storm that the dry well can't handle. And then the next sheet down of the dry well calculations, it details where we show the area of runoff and how much we're storing, and a section through the dry well with the inspection pit, the manhole buried just below in case they ever have to get in there, the overflow pipe and the inlet. And all the inverts are already known based on the spot elevations that we had from the surveyor. So now this is my sheet of plans. And I'll just start here on the let me just back out here a little bit, sorry. The foundation is mostly staying as it is. We're adding this section to the left, and we're also going to step down to it a little bit. But it'll still be a full basement. In other words, we're increasing the basement space, a couple of windows, regular basement windows, and the crawl spaces will remain that are there. This is a full basement area with a laundry, and the stairs are going to stay. And this is slab on grade for the entrance porch, and this is a crawl space. And then the first floor, there's the addition. This line right here is the existing left side wall of the house. So all of this is new over here. The kitchen is staying, the bathroom, the stairwell, the front hallway, the front door, and all of this is staying. This whole room in the front is staying. There's the bay window I just talked about. That's staying. So basically it's a simple rectangular addition that's providing an office and otherwise pretty much open space for dining and family sitting, and the kitchen is all existing and remaining. This is a set of steps that goes out to the patio, and this is the Bilco door. And there are two proposed air conditioning condensers. This is all being converted. The reason the coverage is changing is we're gaining back where we currently have some walkways. We're going to be planting that area. And we'll put the condensers right there. The second floor basically has the existing stair, the hallway at the top, an existing bathroom just being altered a little bit. There's a room in the front here already, and a room in the back here, but we're going to put a master bathroom and master closets, call them master primary. These days, you're not supposed to say master. And the primary bedroom, and then 3 more decent bedrooms with closets. 2 of them will have direct access to bathrooms, and 1 will come through the hallway a short distance to the shared hall bath. And then as far as the elevations, I'll start with the Springfield Avenue. And what I did here was, you can see the front door existing, the steps, the stonework, the bay window. So this is all existing. This will all be new from here up. But you can see dotted in here the existing roof lines. There's the cornice of the original building, we think. And then in front of that, there's a low pitch, which I showed you on the photos. So none of that will be there anymore. It's just going to look much more logical and appropriate and like whole, and all the windows will look consistent, all the siding will be consistent. And I can show you on this one, you can see the profile of the existing roof with that low slope front roof, the low slope flat roof that goes to the back, and then the single story roof is here. So this is all new construction here. And this is all existing, and there's the existing steps. This is the other side facing what's technically the rear yard. This is the side of the addition, so this is all new with windows in the basement, first floor and second floor kind of lining up. Of course, that tall arborvitae hedge will be a buffer between the two buildings. Then the rear elevation facing the Bertha neighbor is the same sliding door, the same steps, same there. This is all existing. So this is the new section right here. And then the second floor is coming out over this single-story roof right here. So, but he saw this last time and said he understands now that it's not going to be changing his light and air that much. It's the same wall. And then let me see what else. This was the demolition plan, which I don't have to spend too much time on. Essentially, it just shows you the existing basement, in case it was hard to visualize. But I show all these removed walls on my plan in dotted lines. But you can see the existing kitchen is here to remain, the steps, the bathroom, the stairwell, the entry. This room and the bay window are all remaining. And upstairs, they're just small rooms with small closets, one hall bathroom, which for 4 high school or college-age kids is tough.
Just confirming what I had the owner commit to on the record, it's designed by you for single-family residential, not a multifamily use, correct?
Yes, it's essentially, it satisfies the purpose of the zoning ordinance and the municipal land use law in providing a single-family home that's up to current standards for families that are growing in size and having to do more in the house than they had to do back in the 50s and 60s with home work, home schooling. And another big part of it is kind of a traditional set of values where they want their children to continue to have their friends over, supervised in the basement, have enough space for elbow room and fun and recreation without feeling like they have to go to someone else's house or go to a club or something like that. So I think those are valid concerns today for evaluating a home design. I think I've covered the site, the building. I can go back. I think I hit all of those. I don't know if I did. Let me just see if I did get all the Collier.
I noted it generally, as I said, the Collier's follow-up is done directly by you and the applicant. 2 Colliers.
Okay.
You did candidly, it's late, and, I think the prior applicant probably would have benefited from a professional who was as prepared as you are in terms of reviewing the Collier's report and offering that kind of detail.
I wanted to give him my card.
That's a little lateness of the hour comment from the lawyer.
I took a notice of the name. I'm going to contact her because I think she needs some help. She's a sweet girl.
Seems like it.
Poor thing shouldn't have ever bought the building without a contingency of some sort. But anyway, let me see here. Okay, so I won't spend any more time on that. I think I did cover pretty much what he came up with, and there was nothing that we weren't able to deal with. So I think I'll just move on to the planning part of it, just to quickly get to that. And essentially, as you hear on all these applications, we have to justify giving somebody special permission to do something that the ordinance doesn't allow. And municipal land use law pretty much categorizes 2 kinds of justifications for C1 and C2 paragraphs. C1 has to do with hardships. There's some kind of physical hardship. I think I'll go back to the aerial photos here. And one hardship that they have, which not everybody has, and which the zoning ordinance did not anticipate, is the undersized. It's not actually the lot is not undersized. It's just that lot depth is below 100, and it does constrict their ability to comply with that rear yard requirement. Also, the ordinance is pretty clear about making this the front yard because it's the narrower of the two. I have to make sure I get that right, but essentially, even though the whole building has for decades been oriented to the Springfield, we have to consider it that way. We're asking the board to kind of look at it from practical viewpoint of the hardship of the existing house, where it is, how it's oriented, and treat that left side yard as a side yard, as an interior side yard, as you would as if it was an interior side yard. And then also that takes away a lot of the concern about accessory buildings being in the front yard because they're more behind the building. I mentioned before that for someone to go into a driveway here or come up, I don't believe you can even turn left onto Bertha. You have to go way up around and come back around and come west on Springfield and turn up onto Bertha in order to get to this property. That's a hardship. It's a little bit of a strange situation where you can't just come up and turn in any direction. The fact that so much was done before they bought the house is also, I think you could consider a pre-existing condition is a hardship. The fact that all the patios and everything were done well, but they were done, and they want to just legalize it and keep it as it is. So the lot depth, the access, the definition of the ordinance, the orientation, I think we covered, those are the hardship issues. Okay. It is a very busy street. Let me see if I can back out here. You have Home Depot and the other high-traffic commercial, right. I know you're familiar with that. I won't spend too much time on it. But essentially, an aerial photo shows in red where the site is. There's Bertha. It's a funny little neighborhood where you have to kind of come up and around, and it's kind of a remnant of a lot of pre-development periods. But that's the parking lot of the Home Depot lot, and then the other big commercial properties right across the street. So there's a lot of traffic and a lot of noise, and the reason I mention it is because it does suggest that any outdoor recreation would not be on this side of the property. It would be toward the rear, toward the Bertha side of the property, as the way it is now. As far as the C2, which is really the aesthetic improvements, we think that we are fulfilling several purposes of the municipal land use law. I'm not going to read them all off, but essentially that we are fulfilling the single-family residential purpose of providing an appropriate home, that we're adding to the health, safety, and welfare of this family and the community, responding to the traffic patterns and the access, preserving the non-compliant yard locations and recreational locations. We're also preserving the light, air, and open space of the Bertha neighbor by not going in that direction toward where we could technically go up to 5 feet from that line and not need a variance. So, and then item G, it has to do with the use, the residential I mentioned, and then purpose number I has to do with a desirable visual environment through creative development techniques, and that gets back to the streetscape and the fact that we're removing all those strange roof lines, creating a more normal gable roof with everything to look like a whole house that could have just been built new. Okay. As far as negative criteria, we want to show that there's no negative impact that we can imagine from this project, that essentially the proposed building addition to the left side is really more akin to a side yard addition that's respecting what would normally be a side yard setback of 5 feet. And it's very similar to all the other buildings in that neighborhood, that just including the one right next to us that also has that 5-foot setback in their rear yard, because it's treated like an interior side yard. So we don't think that we're creating any negative impact because of the fact that these conditions have existed for so long in the neighborhood, very similar to what we're proposing. There's no unusual visual or lighting or noise, or we've handled the storm runoff, all these typical things of water quality, air quality, nuisances, odors that you talk about for negative impact. We don't have any of those on this project. So essentially, the balancing standards where you just look at the positives and make sure they outweigh the negatives, and the fact that you're not creating any negative impact to the neighbors or the zone plan, and that you are essentially can justify granting the relief because the benefits outweigh any detriment that we can imagine. That pretty much covers, I think, everything.
Are there any board members that would like to question the witness? Hearing none, are there any members of the public that would like to question the testimony this witness has provided? Are there any members of the public that would like to comment on this application? Hearing none, would you like to sum up, or would you care to come up and make a closing statement?
Basically ask you to go ahead and approve us, if you would, that we think it's the family had mentioned they want to stay in town, have their kids feel good having kids over and having enough recreational space outside. And I've just been pleased to get to know them, and it was kind of a last-minute urgent thing for me to have to take over and try to help them, and I've been very honored to be able to help the family and can see what they're trying to do, and I hope the board can see that also, and appreciate having residents like this in the town, not feeling like they have to move out of the town because of some burden that they have to face in a zoning situation.
Okay, at this time we can conference this. Mr. Bentavegna, would you like to begin this evening?
Yes, thank you, Mr. Chairman. I feel the testimony justifies the variance requested, so I'll be voting yes.
Mr. Johnson?
Yes, Mr. Chairman, I agree, and the positives far outweigh the negatives. You have 4 beautiful positives in the audience with you, and your expert did a fabulous job, so I too will be voting yes.
Ms. Martins?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. This is a very straightforward, clean application. There's 2 options. You could either leave town or stay, so thank you for staying here in Union. So I will be voting yes as well.
Ms. Ricketts?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I do confer or I do agree with my colleagues here. This is a very clean application. Congratulations to your son on his graduation. Again, it's commendable that you want to just stay in Union versus moving, so I also will be voting yes.
Mr. McNeil?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Thank the professionals for an outstanding job. Thank the homeowners for wanting to stay in our lovely town. Congratulating the graduate. I too have a graduate that just graduated Drew University on last Saturday. So, but the betterment substantially outweigh any negative impacts, and I will also be voting yes.
Mr. Graves?
I feel it's a clean application, no negative impact on the community. I'll be voting yes.
And Mr. Wiley?
Mr. Chairman, I think it's a good application. The positives outweigh the negative, and I'm going to vote yes.
As for myself, I too think this is a great application. The variances are justified by showing that the property is particularly suited for the proposed improvements. Very nice job, Mr. Goen. Beautiful, beautiful looking building. So I congratulate you, and I'm glad you're staying in Union. So I too will be voting yes. May I have a motion and a second to grant the application?
Mr. Chairman.
No, Mr. Wiley, I need a motion and a second to grant the application.
Mr. Chairman, I move that the board grant the variance applicable to this application, and that council is directed to prepare a resolution consistent with the board's decision.
Second.
Roll call.
Mr. Wiley?
Yes.
Ms. Martins?
Yes.
Mr. Bentavegna?
Yes.
Mr. Johnson?
Yes.
Mr. McNeil?
Yes.
Mr. Graves?
Yes.
Mr. Champy?
Yes.
June
Congratulations.
4th, we'll have the resolution, Mr. Gomez.
Congratulations.
Thank you,
Congratulations.
Mr. Chairman. There being no further business coming before the board, I move that we adjourn.
Second motion? Aye.